Church Street on my phone? That story?
No.
Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
Do you use Siri?
Yeah.
So you use it around here?
Sometimes, not really, because I usually.
You know, get shops instructions to you. So when I come to Church Street, it says it twice. So it says, take a right on Church Street, Church Street. It says
Oh, really?
It was really funny. And then, so I thought, oh, that's weird. And then I was down in Nashville not too long ago, and I came upon a Church Street, and I said, oh, what's it gonna say? And it said, turn left on Church Street, Church Street.
So it just always says.
Something about Church Street. On my phone, it says it twice. So whenever anybody says Church Street to me, I say,
You it's doubled up to you.
I mean, Church Street, Church Street. Thank you for the sound, appreciate it.
No problem, glad to. Okay, so yeah, I'll try to find the time with Chris and somebody from Sidewalk.
That'll be fun.
Hopefully next
Chris, and
week.
who's the other gentleman that I like?
Clint.
Clint, yeah. Chris and Clint and.
Jay, well, I think we gotta ask Jay, he's chair.
Yeah.
We'll throw it out there to all of them.
Is everybody here tonight?
Everybody's here tonight as I know it.
Great little space. Where'd you get this? Are you in town?
I just live in Waltham.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
very close.
Oh, you work out of Waltham too, or?
No, I work downtown, but.
Oh, okay.
I made
You
it
can
home.
work out of the house if you need to.
I can.
That's
I made it home to see the kids before I
Oh.
head tonight.
That's great. How do you get into town?
I see.
We're doing a survey on how people get into town.
Yeah, I park at the LA Brush.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, okay.
That's convenient.
So we live right, we're in the northwest corner of Waltham. We're right on sort of that Lexington-Lincoln corner. Right
Okay.
there at the Route 2 Quinquini junction. So I just
Oh,
take
okay.
Route 2 straight in. I'm 10 minutes from LA.
Oh, okay, you live near Trapello?
Yep.
Oh, I love Trapello. Trapello's a little secret. It's a great way to get in town. I like Trapello. It's pretty too. So you have any trouble parking in LA?
I'm usually early enough that it's not a
No
problem.
big deal. And you take it all the way into Boston?
Yep, and my office is in downtown Crossing.
Oh, okay, yeah, so
the
you're.
airport.
So it stops in the basement of my building.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I like getting to, so I live right on the commuter line. I can roll out of bed on the Silver Hill.
Uh-huh.
And so I can take that all the way into Porter.
North Station,
Okay.
you can go all the way.
Yeah.
Right, but if you
Basically,
need a
but-
red line
I
connection,
need
Oh, to
a
red
so
line.
I
Oh,
take
okay.
it to
it's
Porter,
quarter and then switch to,
and then I switch to the red line, and then I get on the Silver line. That's a great way to get to the airport. It
Yeah.
takes me 20 minutes to get there.
oh yeah.
It's a great way to get to the
Red, so
airport.
I do, yeah, red line.
But the silver
Red line to
buses-
South Station, the silver line, that's.
Yeah, and it takes you right to the
Piece
terminal.
of cake.
It's faster than anything. It's really great.
Can you park? You can park overnight at Ilwixon? What do you think?
Not technically supposed to,
Really? Okay.
like,
Can you ride about, how many miles is it,
from my house.
Ish?
Yeah, I don't know,
5
I
miles?
haven't done
Takes you
a
10
bike,
minutes to
the
get
problem is that
You can't do it by.
it's not a, there's not a convenient route that's not
Yeah.
a two.
Exactly. We were just at a bikeability.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but sometimes I used to sometimes just park in Arlington and walk the bike path in, so
Okay, yeah,
I've
'cause-
been considering doing that again, because they have all of those, Lime bikes in.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've been considering doing like.
Pick on the
parking.
Minuteman, yeah.
So my youngest is in preschool in Arlington, so I was like, I'll just drop him at preschool, park at the preschool and take the line bike.
The line bike in, yeah, that sounds. Ready. Hey.
It's already old.
Yeah, take down a few
You're
pictures.
gonna be all by yourself, that could work.
There's a
What?
movie star I was watching over the weekend.
Oh,
I
there
want
you
to tell you
go.
which one, 'cause
Okay.
yeah, right.
Are you sitting there and I'll sit on the
Phyllis
end?
Diller.
No. I think it was both good. What's that?
Are you sitting there and I'll sit at the end?
Oh, no.
That's fine, I don't
No,
mind.
I was saying, no. Your chariot awaits there.
My chariot, haha, buddy. Go ahead. Madame, aren't you gonna go first?
So we came close to buying the dog,
You did,
What?
but
but you
no.
didn't.
Oh, the dishwasher or the,
She wanted to go, we had a vet, so when the event was,
Oh,
so we went and bought a vet one, so
Yeah.
she changed it the last minute.
yeah.
the dishwasher?
No.
Dryer,
Washer
washer
dryer.
dryer.
Okay.
Yeah, washer dryer.
Are you gonna hide in the corner or are you gonna
I was
just?
gonna talk to him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Give me a call. Hi, Imai, how you doing?
I'm good, Leslie, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Just put my trash down there.
Never ends.
Trash everywhere.
I thought I was gonna be late. Oh, such luck, huh?
I'm Katie
I've seen you from afar.
Yeah.
Leslie Glenn, nice to meet you finally.
the other night I was here.
I've seen you, I think, in many such meetings.
Hey Steve, come on through. Good.
Hey Steve, how you doing?
How are you?
Good, thanks. How's the commute these days? To and from?
Fine, why?
I'm just wondering. Every time I venture out there, I go, oh God, I'm so grateful I don't have to do that anymore.
I take the train.
Oh, that's very
Very
nice.
simple.
It is very civilized. It also means you get out of there in a reasonable hour.
Yeah.
Nothing like saying, I gotta leave now, that's it,
Right.
otherwise you're putting me up the Ritz.
Right, exactly. So no, it's good. I mean, the hardest part is making sure that you can train on time and don't miss it.
Yeah, I know. I remember getting to the point where I had down to almost a minute. And I mean, you know, I'm going like this, going,
That's
okay,
cool.
if I don't do it, I'll be here till 9 o'clock, I don't wanna do it. It's unbelievable, you know. It's you know how you have road rage with the sidewalk rage. Out of my way, I have to make the train.
It's true.
Which is nice. Yeah, walking to the train station is so civilized. It just is.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's the best way.
I wish more people could use it.
I know.
Yeah, it's what it comes down to.
Well, I mean, I think more people use it, it was more frequent.
More frequent, exactly. I know it.
I'm not sure they get that.
Well, I remember when it was first, I think the first, used to be the train was, at least when my whistle stop, it was like 20 past, 7:15, and then it moved up to 7, and then it moved up to 7:15. It was like, okay, I'm still going to do it, but it was either 7:15, I think it was, or 8:30, which was too late. So it was definitely always the 7:15 ones. But still, I mean, literally, you walk 5 minutes, no deal with the car. It's just glorious. It really is.
Yeah.
Of course, the other part though is that there's, in the wintertime, they don't shovel. And you have to walk across the train track, because you take it up where my Kendall, right?
Right,
Right, so there is an actual loading area.
sort of, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's flat. With ours, you had to go, you have to work your way, especially when the snow is this high, over to the opposite track. And then sometimes, that first step is a loop, and often, you know, you have people either pushing you or they put up and pulling you up to get there. I mean, that was, that was not fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and we kept being told that, oh, that's because they don't want to add stairs because then it'll be, you know, won't be a whistle stop. Well, that's, hoopla. So,
So did you take one training?
yes, I did. Yeah, I did. I took it, and then I took, you know, I crossed over whatever it was.
The red line.
The red line, exactly, yeah.
I did that before and back, because I was used
Yeah.
to taking the train
Yeah.
downtown, and I didn't want to drive it.
Yeah.
Downtown especially, it was an easier thing there.
But now we moved downtown, so I just don't bother it again.
I think it's for a minute.
It's small, 30.
And Rick still was the master of all his surveys.
Yep.
Is there any vestiges of Ed anymore, or is it just the name? Just the name?
No.
I'm always surprised he hasn't
We'll sit
turned,
across the front.
you know, gone just to his name.
We'll sit right across the front.
Say hello to
I
you.
know, it's like there's, hello. Yeah.
It's a tradition. You know, it's respect from him too, I think. And he said it
Yeah,
nice.
and I think that, you know, the name is the reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh dear. Rick, no, Ed. Oh, yeah, Ed I know about, yeah. I thought Rick was
Oh,
good.
no, Rick.
Yeah,
Susan? Oh, yes.
of course. This was fun. I'm sorry, what? I did. I did, I said it's an hour after I took one. Okay, take a look at it, make sure it went out, yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking for it.
Yeah, no, I did, I absolutely
I was
did.
gonna call you
And I
today.
got, and the other thing is, I did get his price, it does include the debris pile, but not the cut.
Okay. And when did we want it?
I said,
When do you want to do it?
I said there's 2 weeks. He said he could do it this Friday, but I said, let's wait till more leaves fall down, because I don't want to.
Okay, so it's not,
So it's not this Friday, it's going to be this Friday, but I actually need to go ahead and do that.
okay, yeah, I mean, I think Jim will relax.
I would hope so. Thank you, Bill, very nice to meet you. My home's all home, right? That's spelled H-O. Yes, sorry, not to.
I never met Katie.
I know, I had dined her, I've seen her so many times, I almost feel like I know her. I've seen her at various meetings, you know, she's at, on TV here, and I've also seen her at, Hey, Al.
Hi, Katie.
Let's get folks to sign in, please, so if you guys can.
We didn't think of it.
It was so, it was like, yeah, well, it's like a copy over everything else.
Ready to go?
All right, we're ready to start the meeting. Public comment. Is there any comment from the audience about anything that's not on the agenda? No comment? Then we'll start with the continued public hearing for 98 Love Lane. We have all members present this time for the discussion. So I think maybe what we should do, Jonathan, is to ask you for a quick recapitulation of where we stand right now with respect to this application for a flexible subdivision. And then we can have comments from the planning board and questions and that kind of a discussion.
First of all, with me tonight is Rob Provenzano, the owner, engineer Peter Gammy, and I recently joined Wilchins, Costantino, and Mavins. To my happiness, we have another land use attorney there, Eric Goldberg. He's strictly observing tonight. I don't think you'll hear boo from him, so.
We already heard from him.
He didn't say boo.
There's always one.
Look at you. Very, I guess, we've had a couple hearings, so I'm not gonna spend too much time what you already heard, but, you know, we started off with a density plan, showing 2 lots, although, you know, under the flexible bylaw, you only need 200 feet of frontage. Each of these lots has the full 250 feet of frontage. You know, the biggest problem with that plan is we lose the house. So it's, and the Provenzano are passionate about their house, so it's you know, we're hoping that's just an academic exercise. Peter, you know, we can talk about it in waivers, but there's no surprising waivers on that plan. The one we spent a little time talking about is it is a dead end road. The flexible proposal, it's 2 2 lots, slightly over 75,000 square feet. And one of the Provenzano's goals, because they expect to live in that house for a long time, is that they think this plan helps preserve the house. In my letter, I can get into it, but I've sent the letter, I guess my first letter wasn't that explicit, so I tried to be a little better on the second one, but I think that it accomplishes that. You see the proposed building envelope. We talked about the possibility, and maybe this is my own personal preference, if the board was interested, Rob would like to preserve enough room back here, and there'll be no disturb. If someone wants it in the future, he's not going to build here. This is just going to sell the lot. If someone wanted a pool, personally, I like the idea of a house, but I'm not the expert of going even a little further back, push this even back further if the board is so interested. But he would, if he did that, he'd probably want to have the septic system out front. Last time, I think Dave asked us to show us a sample of a house that can go in there. And Peter, you can pull that out. And we have no proposals for a house, it's just a sample of what could fit in that building envelope. And so that's an example. Certainly that house could go further back. We've also said in the past that if the board wants, this is a tree line over here. If the board wants some type of preservation, conservation restriction in the back, that's doable, frankly. Fully discussed it with Rob. I would think just conveying it to the town as possible as well. So that's the proposal. The board has expressed a concern about the significance of the 1902. That's the house?
9, I think.
Oh, 4.
Okay.
Oh, 4.
Split difference.
House, the Provenzano's, and you've heard it before, they love the house, wanted to stay, but we think that this is, nothing's a guarantee in life, but it is a pretty good bet to save the house because, once it's divided up, the prospect of someone buying the right-hand property, I call it remaining lot, my letter goes way down because the house adds significantly to the value of that lot. Whereas the alternative, if the Provenzanos have to sell, at least the brokers are telling us it's a beautiful lot. Their prediction is you get one McMansion there. Or, always you could get something worse, but, more likely it would be one big house. So Provenzanos think that, the chances are very good that this house will get saved. They also proposed, it's a little unusual, I know in my letter, I clarified it at the end of the month that with that house, we would fully expect the board to identify significant features in a special permit that therefore could not be modified without going back to the board, and it's up to the board. The board consults with the Historic Commission. Similarly, would have to come back if any part of it's going to come down. And I know the Provenzanos, I don't know if they will ever go through with it, but they, the two of them have never liked this wing. That's old too, but not the original house. But with what we're suggesting, if we ever did that, and they would have to come back to the planning board, not on a site plan approval, but to modify a special permit. The other thing they're proposing is that as long as they own it, or as long as any entity which they control own it, the building can't be raised. What they're not proposing is that a prohibition against raising this house be contained in the special permit, because that pretty much becomes a permanent prohibition, because someone would have to come back to the board, and, you know, anyone looking at that house, even if they wanted to keep it for the time being, you know, they would know that it's gonna stay that way forever, and that's always a concern. The simpler one that I deal with more, if you buy a house with an easement, people get nervous, they don't like easements. If you buy a house with that type of restriction, they get nervous. So you really would rather avoid that, but for the reasons I said, it's difficult to imagine if they get split up, someone spending the money that you're gonna have to spend on a house that's in excellent condition, and they'll have to pay a premium above the cost of the land. And then if they ever wanted to build a house, since they're not having, you know, it's a good sized lot, but not a huge lot, I don't see, the sense is, there's not a lot of profit there if you're gonna have to, if you have to pay not only for that 75,000 foot lot, but also for a very fine house that has been kept updated. So that's the proposal that I tried to outline a little better, at least part of it in my most recent letter. You know, with Peter here, we can go into more detail of the topography and what have you. For the most part, since he's not going to develop this property, for the most part, would rather have someone have to come in and do a site plan review, you know, set an envelope, but then they'll have to come in front of you for what to do if you folks want, you know, I don't know that this is accurate, because there's trees here as well. There's trees all along here. If the board decided they wanted to augment trees along the edge before it went on the market, that's certainly doable, but it's in pretty good shape right now, as you probably saw on the site plan. So that's kind of the overview. I can't remember how many of you were on the sidewalk. It comes down to your taste in lots. I love an open lot with trees all around it, so it's beautiful, but it doesn't have a lot of trees on it. You've seen what Rob has done with his lot. He's put a lot of trees right here, and he's really interested when he goes to sell of some type of sightline easement, because he loves his house. He'd like people coming down Love Lane to still have a view of his house as they drive down it. So
Okay.
that's kind of the overview.
Thanks, Jonathan. I think one of the issues that we are looking at here is that this is an application which is, the flexible subdivision bylaw has been in place for about 20 years. This is the first time that we've looked at an application where the density determination plan is in fact a subdivision plan which conforms with all the subdivision rules and regulations, with the exception of the dead-end road. And so it's...
In 20 years, that's...
Yeah, this is the first where the density determination plan is actually a conforming subdivision plan. So this is a unique consideration, and at least in my experience, and I've only been around for 22 years.
Well, you've experienced them all, but I'm just thinking of the two Concords. Not the one that you just did. The one right behind the center of town, wasn't that a subdivision road?
No.
They had all their frontage?
No. that never got to the point where it's an actual official application. This is an application for a flexible, that one required a waiver for the offset.
Yeah, but they
That
still had
was-
to show a conventional,
Actually,
because they had no frontage otherwise.
they showed a conventional road, but it wasn't, at least in my recollection, a conforming subdivision plan. In any case, this one is, I'd have to go back and check and be sure that I'm right about that, but this one is interesting in that if we grant the waiver, at least in theory, the subdivision could be built as of right, as it's laid out. And so the flexible subdivision negotiations, you could just walk away from. And it's assessed as a two-lot property, at least on paper. It is. It would be a conforming two-lot property under the subdivision rules and regulations.
Well, but, you know, I
Well,
guess,
you wouldn't.
but put it this way,
Right.
well, I'm just thinking, first of all, quickly, two others, Saddle, when you went in there, that's a subdivision road, flexible, because, and as is the Concord on the left, not on the right, going out of Concord, that's another one, a couple of lots, but, that didn't have the frontage. It's a long time
Didn't have
west
the
of
frontage.
Yeah, but anyway, going back to this one, I would think, you know, I know your rules say that you're supposed to make a separate ruling on density first and then go over to flexible. You know, I'm glad we have town council here. I would think, you know, if we're making progress, we'd certainly be willing to waive making any ruling on the density if we can get a flexible in place, and then your flexible decision says there'll be no further division of this property. So I think they're stuck with it. I think that's a solution. But to that issue, because, yeah, no one wants to see that happen. We don't want to get that ruling. He doesn't want to sell it and see someone come in and plow the house under. So if everyone has the same.
But that's not the only alternative, with a two-lot, with a property appraised as a two-lot property.
The only alternative for a developer, even if they have a flexible special permit, because you run into this in any development. You have a flexible development special permit, that one condition of the flexible is these lots aren't going to be changed. You're stuck with it.
Well, there is one possibility that would overrule that, as you know.
I probably don't, or it doesn't occur to me. What's that?
40B.
Oh, yeah, well, we don't want that either.
Well,
But that's always a risk, and frankly, that one we just, there's another one on Winter Street. There's one we had to show conventional density plan to get 4 houses back there.
right.
But there, with the neighbor, we put something right in the decision or in something put on the record that there'll never be a 40B. There'll never be more than 2 houses on this lot. I think that's doable, and these folks would do that, so it would forever eliminate the risk of a 40B.
How's that?
How do you do that?
Yeah, what is
I
that?
don't understand that.
What kind of a document is
Permanent
that?
restriction, and if it's with the town, I know permanent restrictions with just plain old property owners for 30 years, but I think with the town, you know, if there's an agreement with the town, it can go forever.
Yeah, it's true that you don't have the, but I'm not sure if you can use that to circumvent the 40.
None of the town regulations apply,
Well, then you have that risk any place on any development at that point, you know, wherever it is. two houses.
Not if it's a typical density determination plan, you can't build as of by right. That's what we're grappling with here. That, nobody actually expects anybody would build a subdivision. It's the appraisal, that it's a two-lot appraisal on which a 40B could be predicated. That's one of the concerns that we have. And we can't see any way to, if there is a way to deal with that, that would be great.
But isn't that a risk? You have to make a density determination on all of you're saying your other density determinations were not buildable?
They were not buildable as of by right. This one is as of right buildable.
Oh, because we have more frontage? They didn't have the
Because
frontage?
it's a conventional subdivision plan, as of right.
Yeah, but all density plans have to be a conventional subdivision.
No, you have the frontage.
No, you can get away with less frontage, 98, 200,
Exactly.
250, but that's about
So
it.
it's not, it's an exercise, it's not actually as of right subdivision. So that's a different animal.
So you've never had someone come in with the full frontage?
I can't remember it. I honestly can't remember.
Well, even if they did, at this point, that's water over the dam.
But in any case,
And
it
you have more
would have been
concern.
years ago when we weren't under the kind of pressures that the town feels, at least a lot of people in town, including the selectmen, feel the town's under, to accommodate 40B
Well, see, happily,
proposals.
I live in the town, so I haven't touched 40Bs with a 10-foot pole, so I would never claim to know that much about them. But, so I'm not understanding how it works, because let's say we had a two-lot subdivision. If someone comes in with a 40B, they're gonna wanna squeeze as many as they can in there, and how does it make a difference if you had a one lot with very little frontage and weird configuration and all this acreage, but you can still squeeze under 40B,
Because
15
the
lots?
size of the development is based on the appraisal.
Mhm.
It's obviously a lot more valuable property if it's a two-lot property than a
One
one-lot.
lot, and more so than 3 or 4, so
So it's just something that we're trying to grapple with.
Needless to say, it's an issue that's hitting me for the first time, so
Okay.
I haven't given it a whole lot of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, in many ways, I thought this was a good protection from a 40B.
Nope. There's no protection at all.
Mhm.
Special permits are okay, are completely overruled by 40B.
Yeah.
So any special permit conditions that we place would be not worth the paper they're written on if it's a 40B proposal.
And why wouldn't the property owner, if they, put a restriction on their own, a voluntary restriction on their own property, that would override 40B? That's a private restriction. It's not, doesn't even have to do with whether it's what it is with 2 lots, 3 lots, or 5 lots. You put that restriction on, 40B can't trump that.
Right, but the town can't require you to put that restriction on.
No,
so
we
you
have to-
can
we
just-
have to
You would have to voluntarily
Yeah.
agree to do something like that.
Yeah.
A deed restriction.
A deed restriction.
But can you specifically target, you cannot use it as a 40B? I don't think that's.
No, we can limit it,
No.
we'll never build more than 2 houses.
But a 40B,
If that's tied to the deed, I
But
think that.
a deed restriction is
Would have
different
to
than
come
like
from the
a
owner.
permitting or
From
a
the
zoning.
owner.
and that would be enough to really forestall a 40B there?
It would prevent it.
Because it's
Don't be too
a
high.
private restriction on the deed. As
Yeah,
opposed
Say
to
wanted
a
to build
zoning.
one affordable unit.
Well, theoretically, no, it doesn't.
That would be per parcel then. One house per
So
parcel.
that's not, that's okay for you guys? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, he would hate to see it any more than that.
I don't want 40B, I've never threatened it,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it to my neighbors, and who wants that on Loveline? I mean, this is a
This is what we're
quintessential,
concerned about,
this
because
is a quintessential Weston Street.
It is.
I mean, it is special.
it's very
I
special.
mean, I feel privileged to live there.
So I think, I may be jumping, but I've dealt with Rob on this enough. I have no doubt that they would agree to a permit restriction that on that entire parcel, there'll never be more than 2 residences.
Can I just ask a question to you? When you talk about how having a preservation restriction not for historic, that it couldn't, certain parts of this house could not be demolished, you don't want to do that. Of the two potential buyers, what would be the more off-putting? Would it be a permanent deed restriction that could only be one dwelling on this lot forever? Or would it be the historic house, this part can't be demolished? I'm thinking of the money involved, because eventually you probably will sell.
So you're saying if the lot had a.
If the lot had a permanent deed restriction that went with the deed, and anybody looking at the house, they loved it, or they saw this house, you know, would they mind as much that they could only put one dwelling up as opposed to having to work around in historic preservation?
Would there be restrictions on the one dwelling they put up?
That, I don't know.
I guess I don't see why that's either or.
Because you talked about how anytime there's some sort of entailment on a deed, people get a little
Well, you know,
nervous about it.
I've been doing this for 38 years in real estate, and
I would be interested to
Yeah,
hear
I
what
would too.
Diana's have to say.
Yeah. So
Any sort of
I think we
restriction.
should take them one at a time. What's the effect of one of these lots coming with, either lot,
Lots would have a deed.
coming with a permanent deed restriction
The whole
that
lot.
you'll never be able to put more than one dwelling on each of these lots?
Okay.
You know, what's the effect on buyers if they see that?
I mean, if there's not a size restriction, it's sort of, I mean, if you can't, so you couldn't have an accessory apartment, for example, would that be without the scope? I mean, when you have one dwelling, how's that defined?
Well, you know, that's the
broad.
details, but I guess it'll fall under the bylaw. After 10 years, you want to apply for a special permit for an accessory dwelling in your a 10-year-old accessory building, but that's not 2 dwellings on
Right, it's an accessory building.
Yeah.
it's an accessory apartment.
But, so
I-
what do you say?
Well, I think that most people assume that that's the restrictions on their, that's what a single lot is for a single house. So I don't think, I think having restrictions on sort of what you can do to a building is much more impactful on the value than only being able to have one house on a lot where that's normally what happens there.
But I know that if I have a house with 2 acres and it does want to have that deed restriction, and the developer comes along and wants to put in 8 units for 40B,
Yeah.
they can do it. So
So-
that eliminates a large number of, well, not a large number.
No.
Sorry.
So my feeling, I do not think we have a developer hostile 40B issue in this town at all. I don't think it makes any sense financially for a developer to come in and build a bunch of units when they can make $1 million selling one house, because they get tied up in court and the neighbors hate them. So that's why we don't have hostile 40Bs. So I don't see that as a risk at all. It's just absolutely not a risk. We had the sewer system. It could be risky, but we don't have any hostile 40Bs. Every single one that comes down the pike, we negotiate, and they go away and they're not hostile anymore. So I don't see that as a risk. But having deed restrictions on historic structures that 50, 100 years from now might be deemed, impactful on the value of the property is much more likely than having a restriction that you can't have more than one lot. Now, if we put a sewer system in the town in the future, and everyone's carving up their lots because they don't need septic anymore, and the zoning changes, and these lots don't have that, that could be a restriction, but it's so far away.
It would be highly unlikely, yeah. All right, so what do you think?
Makes sense to me,
Yeah, I mean,
if it's possible to do it.
if it's possible.
Yeah, I'd like to do a little more research just to make sure, but I normally private, I mean, the issue is that you can't require them to do that, but if they voluntarily agree to put a private deed restriction, usually that is something that 40B, that's outside the scope of 40B, but I certainly can do just a little more research to confirm that.
Yeah. Assuming that that's
Thanks, Daniel.
the way we go. I just want to clarify what's in your two letters, if I could, because we're talking about now we're talking about the flexible subdivision part of this.
Copies of it. I can hand out copies if you'd like. I have the board.
Okay.
I've got 'em.
You got them?
Yeah, well, I've got your latest letter here, Jonathan, plus the email that I didn't have last time from Robert.
Can we just pause for a second? I just want to make the statement that the planning board is not anti-40B generally,
I don't
right?
think so.
Just want to make sure everybody understands it because we're on tape. We're very pro-40B, especially friendly 40Bs, right? Very cooperative 40Bs. So what we're trying to do here is to avoid the opportunity for a hostile 40B.
And I think
Yeah, right.
that's one thing the whole road's in agreement on.
Yeah, right,
Makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
I saw 40B on Bluff Lane.
right.
All right, so.
It's not the appropriate.
No, it isn't,
It is
but
not.
so, all right, going to your first letter, I have down at the bottom of the second page, what you're saying, I think, is that the Provenzanos are okay with limiting the size to a certain amount. The amount you mentioned is 7,000 square feet.
Yeah.
That you're proposing a 37-foot height limit, which is the existing zoning. So you're looking at more square footage than would be triggered by the RGFA review. And the same height is currently allowed under the zoning dimensional envelope. What you discussed, the third one is what you discussed earlier, is the location of the house, the new
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, the thought on the height was the two houses on each side are essentially three-story houses. You said the DeVito house
Yeah,
presents.
presents
And you
as great as
say-
you
and
look
you
at
say
it
that-
from that side.
I think I said, if I made a mistake in there, I said 4, but it presents from the street as a three-story house.
Yeah.
So it's above the 37.
Actually, it's 4, because you can see their basement, they have a
It's not so much the stories as the overall height.
height, right.
Yeah.
And also we have a downward sloping lot rather than, we're not up on a hill.
Yeah.
So, you're not gonna be looking, for instance, the house on Deer Path that you're looking, the new house that's being built up there, you're looking at that on a hill, it looks huge. Whereas if you're looking at something that goes down a hill next to two large homes with pretty good heights.
Yeah.
So what we said on the third
I
point.
just wanted to fit
yeah,
in, I just want to be able to have the house look
The
appropriate.
third point, we did not bring, I checked with Eli, we both agreed, probably a little premature, but we didn't bring consulting architect Eric Runnigan. We're willing to listen to some architectural.
Right, that was the fourth, that was the fourth
And obviously,
paragraph.
everything's within reason, but yeah, we want the street to look nice. He wants whatever goes in next door.
Shingle style, stone, gambrel, or French provincial,
Right.
something that fits in.
I don't want that.
I don't want a brick home or a box.
And then you mentioned earlier this evening the possibility of a conservation easement on the back, along the back of the property, abutting the existing conservation land.
Yeah.
Where the trees are now.
Yeah, this is where the trees are now.
No cut zone anyway.
Yeah, so if they want to take it to the next step, then they know that they'll never come back, because they no longer have any control. an easement or restriction on it with conservation that they'll never cut the trees, you know, probably with the exception of invasives.
So that's from, that's the
Okay, so what
email from conservation.
What Imai is just passing out,
Can I have a copy?
Yeah.
I mean, people are walking all over my narrative. What Imai just passed out is an email from Emily Shadler, reflecting the Conservation Commission. I guess Imai talked with the Conservation Commission about their.
Yeah, they had
feelings
originally
about
talked with Rob, and then following up, Emily emailed me this.
But this is something that I was unaware of.
Okay.
Yeah, this was, I was unaware of this too. But this is apparently from September 27th. So I think I just recently heard that the
Yeah.
Concom is okay with an easement.
So yeah, the Concom is good with an easement. They,
Yeah,
what it originally was talked about in there was the trail easement, and I think that's what Rob had offered them, was an access to the trail easement. The buffer easement, we had never really even got to discussion on until recently.
okay, so that proposal would be acceptable to the
Yes.
Concom. And then, I'm close to being finished. I just had a question about the 2 paragraphs in your clarification letter, which frankly for me
Maybe it would work.
didn't clarify anything. The first sentence in the first paragraph says the Provenzanos will agree to a special permit which includes prohibitions against partial demolitions of significant features of the house. But the second paragraph says the Provenzanos are unwilling to accept a special permit which prohibits a subsequent owner from raising the house. Those seem to be.
Except that one little key
They're
feature
a
that's
little
gonna
contradictory, I agree.
Yeah,
Yes,
which is it? The permit that says don't tear the house down, or one that says it's
No,
okay?
what he's saying is, for all time, if you want to modify the house, you have to come back.
But if you want to bulldoze it,
For all time, for as long as the Provenzanos live there, they can't bulldoze it.
we understood they would anyway.
Down the road, and that's the point I'm trying to make in both letters, down the road, he's saying he did not want to prevent someone from raising the entire house. But the point he's trying to make from a different directions is, this does a very good job of seeing that that's not going to happen.
Can I?
Yeah.
The house next to me, if you face that, as you face my house, the house to the right, that's about the same age. It's a little older than my house. And it's undergone every owner, I think there's been 3 owners since I've lived in my house, and each owner comes in and does something to that house. And it preserves it. It's on a small lot. It's on a,
Is the owner of that house?
No,
No,
there's
he
a
was
new-
here the other night.
No, that's the owner across the street.
Okay.
But each and every time, and I wrote this in my letter, I think, that I sent to the board, as an example of,
Right here.
you know, there's nothing like money that saves a house. There's nothing like, you know, these people have put money into this house. The house sold for 2.4, 2.3, 2.4. It helped preserve that house. That, the guy that's coming in, I think will be in front of this board at some point to put another addition on in the back. I don't know what he's intending
Not
to do.
additions, we don't review additions.
Okay, but
Historic, yeah.
but what I'm saying is that each and every person, there's so much value in this house now that they're continuing to preserve it. My house, the great thing about my house is that, in my perception of it, I might be wrong, we have 9,999 square feet of living space in that house. If it's on a smaller lot, my understanding is, if the house were raised, you're not gonna be able to build a house of that size, right? So you're gonna probably wanna work with the footprint. I might be wrong, but that's my thinking.
No, what would happen would be, if you wanted to build a house greater than 10% of the lot size, you'd have to well, it's a scenic road anyway, so whatever you
Yeah.
propose to build would have to come before the planning board.
Right, so, which you'll have jurisdiction over,
The thing
or a
that-
future planning board
The
will
thing
have
that
jurisdiction
protects
over.
that house is, let's say it's worth, I don't know what it's assessed at, let's say it's worth 2.4 million like the one next door.
Accessory to-
A spec builder or even a custom builder is not gonna spend that kind of money for a house to level it, and at least in my experience, maybe they don't take that, that's not the type of house that they take that, I don't know.
Sorry.
Are you listening?
Yes,
Did you hear what I said?
you're taking the house down.
No, I'm saying when you get a house that's a 75,000 square foot lot, when you're paying, let's say you're paying 2.4 for the house, builders don't buy those and take them down. They've got too much into the property.
Yeah, the builder's not gonna take that down. I mean, look at something like 45 Hilltop or 100 Orchard Ave. Those are historic homes that people have been putting money into over time, and they're not tear downs. It's just-
Thing
And
that
that's
saves-
my hope.
thing that saves them is they're in
And
good
there are
shape.
good examples of that all over town, and that's what really, I think, saves the house.
Yeah, we have a couple of letters on the issue of the value, of the sort of historic value of the house from the Historical Commission and from Pam Fox. And they actually sort of agree, the two assessments, that the house is a nice house. It's a contributor to the character of the street, but it's not one of the top 10 houses worthy of preservation in Weston. That was sort of that's the recapitulation that I read, of what I read. So, the question is, how, would we go to the mat for a deed restriction, preservation deed restriction on that house, given the communication we've gotten from the commission and Pam Fox? And-
Which is it's very nice, but
It's
not
nice, but
something.
not, right, it's a 20th century interpretation of an early 19th century federal style, and there happens to be at least one real example in Weston. It's nice, it's a nice house.
It's all right.
No,
But it's not.
We don't mean to hurt
no.
the feelings.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a nice house. I mean, it's well done. It was designed by a pretty well-known local architect, and so it'd be nice to save it, but not something that we want to insist on a deed restriction for. That's at least what I heard. So those are the issues, right? Those are what you've laid out here. I'm still not sure about prohibiting the demolition and then not prohibiting demolition, but
We wanted to give you, our sense was you wanted control over people who modify it. And that was fine. So it's done tastefully on a beautiful street, but didn't want to prevent the next owner to raise it. I know it's contradictory, but that was the thought.
yeah, okay.
Just understand.
Bear
Yeah.
with me.
I'm
I
not-
mean, okay. It's pretty good.
Okay.
This voluntary deed restriction is very interesting. But I guess we really need to find out just how airtight it is. It would restrict it to one dwelling per lot in perpetuity, correct? Is that how we write it? And we are not twisting your arms.
No, you're not.
This is totally voluntary. We didn't come up with this idea.
I don't see how that would devaluate
Okay.
devalue
You
the
did have
property.
somebody
Yeah,
professional way.
yeah. And I appreciate it. Yeah.
So to me, it would be, if that can achieve what we want to achieve, i.e. prevent somebody coming in, putting in all kinds of odd things, I would be very happy with that. That's just me.
Is that something where you would write it and have town council take a look at it?
And do it however you
I
want.
don't know.
I mean, again, this is not, the town is not
Doing this, this
doing
is the
it.
owner.
Like, it's, the deed restriction is not being held
Yeah, it's,
by the town.
Right,
I
right.
don't think it has to be very complicated.
Yeah, no.
I just want to make sure that it has traction.
Right, it is effective.
Yes. And So if
that's the case, then.
do you want something written from Jonathan, or do you want to just take a look at it on your own to make sure it has traction?
Flexible.
You want to
Yeah, we could.
make sure you agree that it has traction first?
Yeah.
I need, like everyone at Compliment, I need the board's permission to talk to her. So, you guys will have to decide. You know.
What, you need literally?
Yeah, well, literally, because, the town does a good job of keeping its fees down, so she can talk to you, but without your authorization, she can't talk to me, isn't that right? It is right. Yeah, as a taxpayer, I'm not gonna do that, it frustrates me at times, but I'm a taxpayer too, so I understand.
Well, I think the board would be perfectly fine if you're talking to Katie. That'd be great. On the other conditions, I think we need to find out what this easement, the conservation easement
Yeah.
would look like. Does that mean, who's, it's currently wooded, so, what are the maintenance responsibilities?
That's what
Um,
Colin was exactly concerned about.
Who takes
Access.
care of the dead trees?
Mhm.
What does that document look like? Because I can see that an owner would have a problem if that was not defined.
Well, there are some dead trees, there's dead ash.
I'm
back
sure there are,
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
that, they tend to
I mean,
die.
I see them, and I'm like, well, should I go back
And
and
they come
cut
down
them?
branch by branch.
But if it's a conservation
And
easement,
that would
don't
be
you know?
dangerous too, I mean, I had a lot of those around my
Well,
house.
conservation will probably have a pretty good idea what they want.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, George isn't with us anymore, he would know exactly what he wants, but I think
yeah.
they've got some very good people.
Well, Emily Schaefer would probably make some suggestions,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
No,
Or Michelle Presenda.
yeah, I talked with Michelle briefly about it today. She outlined some concerns, but Emily is part-time, she wasn't in today, so.
Okay,
But, she said, I have,
so we'd
I
sort of
mean,
like to
okay,
see
I wanna
what that
talk to her.
looks like.
yeah.
Can we also set a dimension on where exactly it is?
Yeah.
Because I say tree line, but is it the
Yeah, I
top, is
think
it the
that's-
canopy, is it?
It's like it's
Yeah,
about
we have
50
to do
feet
that.
to me.
Have we gone through all the definition of where the house is gonna line?
No, I think that, we're trying to get over the hump of
Yeah.
the density determination plan.
On that, where you're talking about the building envelope?
Yes, right.
I've kept the stakes up just for that purpose. If anybody would wanna come by and we can restake it, because I never liked this, by the way. You can put a big house here, but you don't have to, you can put it out back or, make the fronts. I've seen it done on Chestnut Street. But I left the stakes where the existing is.
Where the existing envelope is
Over the
shown.
existing envelope, I've left all of the stakes, but if we were to bring it back, anybody's welcome to come and we can look at it and decide where I think it should be on parallel to my house. And maybe set a little bit beyond the front of that house, but a lot can be done with trees too, but
Well, where that house is now is counterproductive to what Jonathan was talking about, which is maintaining a view corridor.
yeah,
through
I
your house.
don't know how I had just had enough and I was like, yeah, that's okay. So, that was never a good representation.
What would be?
Well, something that was set back a little bit further and this not be out at the front of the house, the setting of the house be, maybe not encompass
Well, they're
from
not
one
gonna
end to.
decide the footprint now.
We'll
Yeah,
decide
I
the
understand.
envelope though.
Yeah.
I think what had been talked about before was to give prominence to the existing house,
Right.
so that this one is playing a secondary role, so the first house, the existing house, is more prominent to the street, and this would be pushed back farther, but there's a balance point.
Yeah, this doesn't help a visual, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see
It's
how
hard
that
visually.
works
Yeah, it's hard to see how that
with,
works.
in sympathy with the existing house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think,
But,
statute.
but for bringing up that point.
Available envelope,
Right.
statute further back.
Yeah.
Start.
So we should take a closer look at that, and you know, it would be interesting to see, I mean, I appreciate the idea that you'd want to maintain that viewscape to your house from the
That's
street.
not-
But that doesn't preclude every single street tree that might be planted, you know, eventually to form a canopy over the road, and so I think maybe that would be something to look at. And also, the layout of things like you know, you really want to have a driveway taking up the entire viewscape of that front yard, because now what you're looking at is pavement as you look at your house, so
Like I said,
you want a more empathetic house to frame the existing house. I totally understand that. What this doesn't do is exactly what you want.
I don't know what you
White
used to
out.
The telephone poles are on that side.
how I'd let that ever get put on paper.
Well, I have
We give
visions,
you white out.
I have visions of taking the driveway this far, and then the person has to come to you on site plan approval.
They don't have to be in the right of way. Diana was just saying that the utility poles are on that side of the street, but the shade trees don't have to be in the right of way.
Yeah.
So they won't get cut down, I'm just worried.
Yeah, exactly. You could place them in such a way that they're not gonna get lopped off by Eversource's sympathetic tree maintenance plan.
There's plenty of room.
I guess my question is, on the special permit aspect, you don't get involved really in the driveway at all, as far as where the driveway is.
But here, access would be an issue, it seems to me. You know, if the driveway is limited to the left-hand side of the lot, say, you know, and without
Yeah,
paving in the front yard, you know, maybe,
I was picturing, you know, a special permit that takes it that far, and then they've gotta come back and see you for whatever they wanna do. Whereas, or for the site plan approval.
yeah. Well, what we could do is put together a draft of sort of the limitations on the house, the square footage, the envelope, you know, and then some general notes about what style it would be empathetic, give some possibilities. It has to look like this, but just sort of, here's some guidelines for what we think would work with that existing house. I think that would be helpful. I agree, I don't think it should be a reproduction of the existing house. I don't think it should be in the same style. It should be neo-colonial, but something that is recessive, that makes that existing house stand out. We could probably put together some guidelines as to how that would work.
Be receptive to that.
Yeah. So, okay.
But what goes there is important.
Yeah, what goes there is critical. I mean,
No offense to
this is your, you know, vision, and so we want to, and I think I think your vision is right on the money. I think you want to continue to emphasize, you know, the quality of that house, and I think the more that is done, the more likely it is that house is going to be preserved. So we're going to try to help with that.
Yeah, I think we all agree. I hope Eric never sees this, but, you know, this, I guess this is off-putting.
Do you want to hear that again? Do you understand that?
Yeah, but
I approved it. I approved it.
No, you just said you don't
It's
want
just
it.
like, yeah, let's get
No,
this.
you just said you didn't want this.
And here we go, 6 months later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
You
a
had
while.
decision fatigue, and you said,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
fine, this
No,
is great.
okay,
Now
now
you
you
wish.
Yeah,
Well,
it was,
me too.
it was,
He's
That's
got,
really-
he's got to paint some more driveway.
Mhm.
No, I can appreciate that. Okay.
Very good.
So, we'll work on that. You're gonna work on the restriction, the
I was-
2-lot restriction.
I can send Imai a letter this week, saying this is what we're offering the town. You know, we're offering as part of this process to restrict each of those lots to one house for all time.
Sounds good.
Accessory structure.
And then you're gonna check with Michelle
I'll work with Don,
and
yeah.
figure out what it is that they'd like to see in
Yep.
the easement.
In other words, where the building located, the trees.
You think?
Good, makes sense to me. That restriction would really help.
Should we come back in? We can come back in pushing that building wall back.
Yeah.
Now, you don't need any sample footprint on that, do you?
I don't think so, as long as we define the character of the overall
Yeah.
sort of character
We
of
need to
the,
talk about massing and material and color,
yeah, but,
like that.
and the style, so we can
Yeah.
throw out some general guidelines on that and see how you like them.
And we'll talk to Michelle, see how she wants to go about conservation.
Yeah, I think we're getting close.
So, we'll come back with a pushback envelope with no building footprint on it.
Yeah. Right, and we'll provide some guidelines for,
You have our permission.
right. So when can we continue this to?
I would say December 5th.
December 5th. That looks like to me that would be the last time. I think we're gonna get over the finish line.
That's why he'll tell his wife we should kill him.
Nothing's more bad.
I know, I think we're close. I think we're all really relieved about that.
Yeah, I think we are.
She wasn't at all
It's nice we all share the same goal.
Honey, I'm home.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Listen, I think we can now refer to mass, MMC.
Aren't you glad you came?
I
am. Good job, it was very interesting.
They said mass material. From now on, I think that's our own slang.
Thank you very much.
Well, we gotta consider the MMC here. And if they do for something.
We want to do that and try and deal with style.
Yes. Because otherwise, MMC.
That starts getting a little tricky.
I can deal with that.
We are good. Thank you, Katie.
Okay, we'll be, we'll see what we've got.
How'd it go? Got more than got all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie.
I'm back, Katie. I know, you called me, I tried to write him a note. What's going on?
That was a good outcome.
Okay, we're ready to talk about the irrigation system for 100 Ridgeway Road. And when we last spoke, we were asking you to look at, you're the architect.
I am.
Okay. You were asked to take a look at alternatives that would prevent having to import water from the MWRA to put on the lawn. And so where do we stand on that right now?
So we put the well in down 700 feet, it didn't.
Yeah, we heard that last time.
So, we don't have a solution for water for it. We were requesting for using the water for a temporary period of time to establish the landscape.
So the condition that Susan had mentioned, do the no lawn, but just the trees and the shrubs for using the town irrigation. And I mentioned to EMI to do a 2-year period based on what Karen had mentioned to us. It takes about 2 years for the shrubs and the trees to get acclimated. And then maybe after the 2 years, have a landscape architect go out, take a look at the trees and the shrubs, issue a letter if they're doing well, then they can take it offline. If they need another year, maybe allow us 1 more year, and then they take it off.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Maggie Taylor, I live next door. I wondered if it could be done with drip irrigation instead of sprinklers, because it would use a lot less water.
That's the intent, we're gonna use a drip irrigation system for the.
And what about the lawn?
We're not gonna irrigate the lawn, just the trees and the shrubs.
So how many gallons of water are you planning to bring in?
Well, we'll have to talk to the irrigation company for when they put it up. So it's all gonna be the trees and stuff along that upper slope, all the areas that we're basically planting for the screening all the way through there, so. I don't know the exact total amount, but we could get that number.
Because that wasn't figured into your drainage plan.
No, we didn't plan on using town water.
So what does that do to your drainage calculations?
So the
Change the drainage now?
no, it's what we'll do is right now part of the reason why we're doing this is we're high enough out of the groundwater, so the cistern system isn't gonna work because we're not getting any flow from the actual sump pumps for the basement, because we actually were able to get the proper offset to groundwater. And so when this infiltrates, most of it's gonna infiltrate and go down to the actual upper sections and then down to the grade and never get into our, it's not gonna be below grade, not getting into our actual recharge system. Yeah. Yeah.
We've had a lot of conversation about the drainage.
Just identify yourself.
Sorry, I'm Dan Johnson.
Okay.
I'm the other Dan right. It would just be helpful to understand.
Yeah.
I sent Eric and
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned with the drainage.
Yep, so the plantings we're talking about is this slope here. See these little hatched areas, these sections here. You have some plantings that are going on along that side there, going in through there, and then you have the new plantings that are inside these established existing trees. So you have some plantings in that section there, and then you have a few down here. So that most of the drip irrigation is going to be going up in this upper section. And then you'll have some small amount of drip irrigation along that edge where those trees are, and then in this section over there.
Drip irrigation, you don't get runoff, so it doesn't enter into the stormwater.
I thought the last time we met, because I got some notes, we talked about doing hand dug and going for a higher water table because of all the perched water you have there.
Yes.
Can you check that out?
Yeah, so what we did is, basically when we were doing the full design for this,
Yeah.
we had established where the groundwater was. We had proposed the irrigation well, we had proposed the cistern right there, with the idea that if the cistern was gonna work, the only way it really works is if you get groundwater into it. And so we said, well, we're about 18 inches off the groundwater with the basement slab. And so we might get some water here and there from the springtime, enough to then maybe irrigate some of the lawn going through there, and we wouldn't have to put a well in, and we could just keep on recycling our own water because it's groundwater. But when we haven't, for this whole entire past year, we've been monitoring that, again, the empirical information. And for the spring, that pump would only run once a week for
Right,
about 30 minutes.
I remember that
Yeah,
conversation,
yeah.
but I thought there had been discussion about going to dig a well not down 700 feet, but to a lower level.
Like a dug well.
A
yeah.
dug well,
Yeah.
exactly. And where
Yeah.
does that stand?
So we didn't have the only location that we can really do a dug well is somewhere in here, and it's too close to the house.
Why is that the only place you can do a dug well?
Because we have the septic up there.
You have to have a 100-foot setback?
We're supposed to have, for irrigation well, Title V says 50 feet.
Okay.
The town prefers 100 feet from any well. But if you try to get it, so that's why you have this here, this is 100, this is the 50 feet. So ideally where, you lose the whole front yard area for any kind of well system. And then you have, that detention basin that we put there, you have the Caltech system there. You have your property line there, you have that well that we just dug through that section there. And then there's some utilities and an easement that are coming down through here.
So that area to the left of that outer circle, and that was
Yeah.
right there.
Right. So
That's a viable spot, isn't it?
But it's right adjacent to the house. So the idea was we didn't wanna, right now the house is built,
Yeah, I
so
understand.
trying to get access to that area with like any kind of excavator or anything like that to put that well in doesn't really work well. And it's adjacent to the house, now your dug well, dug well's gonna have the head above the, as you normally see, that nice concrete head that sits out on top of the middle of the lawn. So that's why we were saying, well, we don't wanna do any of that, so let's ignore, let's not irrigate the lawn at all. And then just go with irrigating the trees and the shrubs so they establish, and then let them stay natural.
You said that the town likes 100 feet. Is that in code, or is that somebody?
It's in the regs.
Okay.
Now, she can, because Title V, Wendy as the board health director is allowed to, reduce that if she wants, if she wants.
Because it is for irrigation only.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But it's
what would
preferred.
happen if she did reduce it to 50 feet? Is there other opportunities?
You're still gonna be, like, you think of this circle right here, it's 50 feet, so you're still stuck with something like that around that septic system, so you're still in the backyard.
Then I'd see to the right though, of the house.
A 50-foot
Yeah.
radius or diameter?
It's a diameter,
Is what you have to
yeah,
have.
so it's, or radius, so it's 100-foot diameter, so yeah, that's that, you know, that section like that.
Right, but I mean, it's the top part of the bagel or donut or whatever.
But I think that was the things we were talking about, was my understanding when we were talking about doing the dug well, was for, using that for irrigation for the lawn. And,
But it could be for, if you struck water, it could be for everything, and then that would be the end of it.
with the problem with the dug well, that's fluctuating off, you know, basically natural weather. So it's the same thing as like us, you trying to use a cistern off the sump pump or anything like that, where it's gonna fluctuate, so in the summertime, it's deep,
Yeah.
so when you really need it, it's not there.
I had thought that this whole area was very wet normally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason I think you've got two neighbors here.
Right. And so then what we had, I'm like, this was, so you have ledge, you have, you know, there was ledge that was accounted in, you know, this section over here, there's some pockets here. This, you gotta remember, this was a natural bowl that got cut out through that area where the forge used to be, they had a couple catch basins. And the catch basins didn't drain everything, but you do, like, you know, when we see it, you have the slope that comes down here, so you see a good amount of water coming down through there. I think Dan sees some water coming off Ridgeway, it comes down on his driveway, we see the water come off Ridgeway, because there's not, the berm itself isn't really that, it's starting to break down, so there's a lot of water that comes off of Ridgeway here and there.
It's a significant issue.
Exactly, right.
And I mean, I know we haven't had a chance to chat about it, I sent you guys this rain
Right.
blast.
Yeah.
Because you guys raised up the land. So now it's actually creating a real, you know, sink there. I mean, I got pictures, I had a swimming pool in the driveway.
Seriously?
It's a swimming pool.
Gee whiz.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
and I could show you, I mean,
So why is this happening?
it was,
If the drainage is
and I
fixed.
don't know whether it's like, there's a berm, but all that water is coming off that side. This
Where it's
weekend,
coming
that
off
was
the
this
side
weekend.
here?
It's coming off that side, because you raised up that land to put your septic in there, and now all the water's shedding onto our driveway and down the driveway.
Can you point to your driveway, just, or Jason?
It's-
It's
yeah,
right there.
Yeah, here,
That
I'll,
one right there.
the water, and again, I mean, these guys just planted the trees, so I don't know what the ultimate plan is, but the way the landscaper explained it to me is that you can't actually have water driving, coming off. The water was rushing in here and down here, and that is the end of that driveway.
So there's supposed to be a swale.
So
that they've
more
installed.
water, yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on here, but this land all came up, you guys filled that all
Yeah,
in. So
yeah.
it's now, and by the way, not only is it just a problem there, but it's actually a problem down here.
It's a problem.
So there's a whole sunk, because this land came up too.
Yeah, and I don't think Weston Street Landscape's done, because they haven't done the whole swale that's through that section of Green
Well,
Water.
how long, but you just said the house is built and they've been at this for a long time.
Oh, yeah, now they're starting to put in the final, right now, that's, you know, this is
Landscape or
upgraded,
something.
and
If
that's,
they're putting the final landscaping, then the swale should be complete.
there's supposed to be a swale in between us, like this whole section on the backside of those trees that they're putting in there. So
Well, if
that's,
they're planting, then the swale should be there, because they're not gonna plant and then put the swale on top of the plants.
no, it's gonna be on the backside of them, so then the water that comes across is never gonna go through the trees, they're gonna go in, it's gonna
Backside
go to
of
the
the
swale.
trees? Because I'm not sure you have tons of space between those trees in the driveway.
We have here's the driveway here, and then you have, there's the trees right there.
Yeah, no,
There's a problem.
I'm sorry, the backside of your driveway.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So it's supposed to, the swell's supposed to take all this water that's coming down through here, pull it down towards the back, put it towards that. There's no grass.
Yeah, but it's the contours of the land that are really going to deal with that.
And I think part of the also reason I think for that, and I was just, I looked at the foot, I saw a couple of photos where it's that the erosion control should be further established up top. I think they have.
When is that gonna get completed?
I mean, that's the, look, you guys can just go through these things, and they're, you know, it may be right, like that erosion up here was sort of rushing through.
There was nothing,
It
there was
was not
nothing put
that
on.
heavy though,
Yeah,
right? Like,
it was
just
that
a
heavy.
heavy,
Yeah.
Or there's no straw or anything.
There's a couple of little ones.
It shouldn't be happening at all,
But,
irrespective
I mean,
of
there's
the
nothing
size
there
of the
to,
storm.
like, there's nothing to push
It's
the
not
water
100
just
storm.
coming straight through.
No, it's not.
Everything,
Doesn't
everything's
matter.
under
Yeah,
this one.
yeah, this
And then
is.
They never
all the way
had
down.
standing water in their driveway before, now we have standing water in the
Where
driveway.
is this exactly?
This is at the end of the driveway, so this is, yeah, sure, so this is our driveway, it comes down through here. I mean, I'll point out, we've got a picture between these trees right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that picture is sort of somewhere in here.
Like 10,
The
15
water
feet.
is rushing down here, and it catches, because we put blocks in here, it catches the edge of the driveway and then down, and dumps right here.
Into, right into your house.
Because our driveway goes downhill,
Yeah.
and what
So
never happened
once it
before,
gets into
this
your-
wasn't raised up.
Once it gets into the chute, it just follows down to your house.
That never used to come down there.
No. It came off the
So
road,
this-
it would catch here, because this was a big hole.
We didn't get water down
No,
the driveway.
no, I mean, you get some because the berm would run down, but we put gravel along the side of the driveway.
If it's still
We caught it.
construction, they should have, they should have.
There was some, but it was not like that, that
Filters or
was.
something.
Yeah.
Well, the berms
No.
got old after about a year.
But then
No,
that's
I
always
don't,
deteriorating.
Right.
Oh, they need to reestablish the erosion control.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
definitely right, because they're
And
looking
then-
off pretty sad.
Oh, no, it's only a wattle, it should be a filter mitt, because the straw wattle doesn't
Right.
take on any kind, can't block any sediment.
Right.
It only blocks like the larger, like it should be a filter mitt.
But I mean, that was not,
Yeah, it
look,
wasn't
it was,
the
it was,
worst
it was a
storm.
downpour,
Right.
Yeah.
but
It's
like,
not a
I
100-degree
worried that,
storm.
like, I worried that like, you know,
The
one of
point
those crazy
The point is, it
rainstorms.
wasn't
that-
happening before, and now it's happening.
Yep.
And
Right.
what we're trying to do is prevent that kind of thing from happening, where water sheds off one property onto another. Because that's what the review's supposed to be
Oh,
doing.
now, that was a lot of the concern, candidly, early on, when we were worried about these calculations.
All right, so
Well, it's not the calculation, I mean, you have the raw, right now you have the raw soil. They have, basically they haven't established the swale that they're supposed to do, and this isn't lawn yet. And so the berm's supposed to get fixed by the DPW up through there, so that's gonna not take some of the water on. This
That's
is
not gonna solve, that's not.
No, but I'm like, you're talking about each increment of these things solves that issue.
Well, then during construction, you have to, if those are old berms, you're supposed to replace them with something that'll work, so that this adjacent property is not getting flooded.
Yeah, well,
And that's the first thing. The second thing is, after you've done finish your swale, et cetera, we need to make sure that it doesn't continue to happen, that there
Right.
isn't another problem.
Well, is it your feeling, Dave, that if they finish construction the way it's shown in the submittal documents, that they're not gonna have water on the driveway, that they?
It should, but I wanna go out and take a look next time it rains.
The water's still standing, right?
No, the water's now
gone,
gone, right?
okay.
You know, fortunately, at
Friday.
the end of our driveway, it keeps going down. But it took a long time for it to go out.
It's supposed to
Quite
be.
candidly, Dave, I mean, we went through all these calculations, that was our concern.
Right.
There's a long history on this one.
So
This was
we're
exactly
being
our
told
concern.
it's, while this is being constructed, not all the controls are in, it's not finished, now it should be happening anyway, the perimeter control should be stronger.
Right.
Even if the past one wasn't that big of a deal, like, there's been like 4.
Had a very rainy.
Yeah, it's been a pretty miserable fall, that,
But, yes, but we always.
that the site guy should kind of be on, so
Yeah.
could we,
So it's supposed to rain again on Friday.
Yeah.
how much?
An inch?
All right,
We did all talk about this, we beat this to death.
We did, and
We beat
Yeah.
it to death.
I'm
and we-
focused on trying to make sure that we
Right.
complete the inspection of the whole drainage, we rerun the calculations, because here we are, and we're seeing this without.
Well, I would like it for future reference, when we get a really, really large house going in a very, very wet spot. That maybe it has an impact that we can limit the size of the dwelling.
What worries me is, this is just
This
annoying,
happens, yeah.
but in about a month and a half, it's gonna be way past
It'd
annoying.
be dangerous.
It's
We're
gonna
gonna
be
have
ice.
on our-
It's gonna be ice, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're not gonna have a harder time trying to make things work. Putting grass seed down now isn't going to really do anything.
Yeah.
I just have one other concern in terms of this entire drainage plan. Nothing has been done in the meadow across on Orchard Avenue. There's been no inspection, it hasn't been opened, it hasn't been ameliorated, there's still holes all around the drain, nothing. And before we go giving away anything more to this particular project and drainage plan, I think they should live up to what they promised to begin with, if that's a possibility. So,
It's, well,
Jay, you said that it was supposed to be inspected every 6 months, that you guys took ownership of the property in January. Nobody's opened it, nobody's looked at it, nobody's cleaned it. We're 9 months out, we're heading into winter. You said you were gonna put a new lid on it, maybe you would enlarge it, maybe what I would like that to happen in that dry well is I would like that pipe to see daylight. I would like you to just daylight the pipe so that we don't have any water that can back up.
I don't know if the commission's gonna let us daylight it, but that's,
Well,
EMI was written into the conditions that prior to CO, that all that work has to be performed, and we've made the builder well aware that all that stuff, the
None of
inspections.
it's done.
I know,
But he's gonna sell this house tomorrow.
he can't sell it, he can't get a CO for the house until that work is performed.
Well, you better remind him of it, because it's really not,
Yeah.
this is what we all
Yeah.
were worried
No, this-
about, and here we are.
This area has to get fixed, and definitely the erosion control all has to get
Before the
updated.
CO.
That's,
Before
all
we
that
get
work has to get
inspected.
done before the CO.
It's all, that's getting landscaped now, we're not anywhere near done.
So I'm trying, you're saying landscaping, so is that a week, is that 2 weeks, is that 2 months?
When what
When
Maggie's talking
basic-
about will be done?
Well,
I would
they- well,
imagine
when-
that'll be
that was
done in the
supposed to
next
be-
couple of weeks, yeah.
The buyer's coming from England to outfit the house in November.
Seriously.
That's what she told Nan's.
So it has sold, or
It's under agreement.
that's,
It can't be occupied.
We understand.
Does the
But I'm not sure the
understand?
buyer understands that.
You know, this happens, whether we like to say that people who sell the houses and hand the responsibility to the new buyer.
Correct.
And then we get to hear about what they did, nobody told them.
But yeah, but the good part though is on this, EMI has it in the conditions that they can't get a CO without doing that stuff. So it's literally impossible for us to get, and you can't sell a house without a CO, so. So we can't get a temporary.
I know of one that's for sale right now.
Yeah.
But you can't get to have a temporary CO for somebody to go move in.
well,
No, I know of one that's for sale right now that can't get a CO.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh my God.
I do. So I don't know where that comes from, but that's the case.
But typically,
I don't know if it's kosher, but if the builder is going to let the pending buyer know about this, I'd love to be copied on that letter.
Right, it'd be nice to make sure that this is not just sort of a sub rosa little event going on between the builder and the buyer.
Right, so that they're aware that there are
Because
things
the
that are
buyer
conditions.
gets mad at us,
Us.
not the builder.
Yeah,
You never
especially if
heard
they're in
anything about
We
it?
England.
never heard anything, we
Yes.
didn't know this, it's all your fault. You need to give us, a variance, you basically gotta grant us a contemporary.
Because we didn't know anything.
Because we didn't know
Nobody told
anything,
us.
right.
How do we know that all this drainage maintenance stuff is in the deed? These people are coming from England, so they don't likely know a whole lot about drainage laws in America, or buying houses in America, or owning land in America.
I think it goes back to, when the builder, to the pending owner about this problem, that they let them know that there are deed restrictions per the planning board, et cetera, so we all know we're playing on a level field. I'd like to be copied on that.
I think it says that I think the buyers have to be told. I mean, there's an.
We would
the
like to
O&M
see it in writing
Yeah.
with them, because what happens is they say, no one told us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally,
That-
we had this happen in June,
And you
no one
honestly,
told us.
you don't wanna be in that position either.
Yeah. And I know for the drainage, there's the O&M on the property, that's supposed to be per the town bylaws, which I know you can say that the buyers don't know.
Well,
But
they claim they
they're,
don't.
they're supposed to, as part of them buying the property, they have to sign that same O&M
But
that says
the
they're supposed to.
builder hasn't opened that drain, and he owns the property,
Yeah.
and he isn't maintaining it. It was supposed to be done every 6 months. Where's the logbook?
Right,
Right.
Nobody's been doing it. This is not working, is what I'm saying to you. It's not working now, so imagine when the new owner comes.
It's not, I think it's because they haven't tied in yet.
And there's no
They haven't tied in yet, so I think that's why it
It
has
doesn't
to.
matter.
I gotta tell you, right now, personally, I'm done talking about the well at this point. There seem to be a number of issues here that aren't yet resolved. I think the well is
It's now back at the,
Not the issue.
Yeah.
It's way down the list of priorities, at least for me.
I mean, look, admittedly, I'll sit here and put on, I actually want these things to grow.
right.
Okay, so there is part of me that is empathetic to somehow getting these trees water.
Well, they
The
don't need
problem
water.
is
They don't
in a
need
month.
water. They're getting a lot of
No, I
natural
know,
water.
but in a month, I'm actually, I'm
Well,
more
in a month, we're
worried
gonna
about
have
the
a
drainage
frozen
and what we
ground.
agreed to.
You
all
were
manually.
entitled, you were entitled to both of them, you know,
Right.
not a flooded lawns, you're
Not
entitled to,
anymore.
you know, separation between the two properties.
Yeah, well, look, I know I am, I wanna, you know. Candidly, I feel like we waved a lot of
That's
these
right.
flags, you know,
They're
a
well
long
watered.
time before this, and the property was raised up, and now we have drainage issues,
Yeah,
because we know it's on ledge.
nobody wants the plants to die.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, what we're hearing is disturbing, and what we're seeing is disturbing, and we'd like to see those issues resolved before we sign off on the installation, or the approval to tap into MWRA water to make sure that the new plantings survive. And in this season of the year, right now, they're not being
You can do
threatened.
the drip in
We're
the
not in
spring,
a
after
drought.
they're in the ground, you can install the drip
Yeah.
in the
Go
spring.
to dormant anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna, well, the ground's gonna freeze, so that means drip irrigation shut off anyway, so you don't need it until spring. But this is, it's very concerning to me that a potential buyer is on the way and obviously feels that there is no impediment to their moving in, which means that we are going to look, it'll somehow come to pass.
Finish up with all over.
Oh boy, you know, and I've already been through a lot of problems with this over on other streets in town. I think you know the one I'm referring to, and I prefer not to have this happen to me again.
The current owner and builder should be here tonight discussing this.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
I represent the owner and
So can you transmit the feeling of the board?
I understand exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Do you have any sway with this builder?
Well, it's under construction. We were here to talk about the well. There is some stuff that I see in those photographs, which Dan just sent to me hours ago, that it's not properly secured. It's not finished. Same with Maggie's concern.
Yeah, I don't
It's
like
not-
the fact that nobody's done anything with that dry well.
Not single-
I don't know why that's
9 months
gonna
later.
be done. Was that supposed to be done
I
in
think from the
advance?
very beginning, it was, that
Somebody's
was my
supposed to have
understanding.
looked at it
Before we
in
finish it.
6 months. No, they're supposed to be
It's
6
three
months.
months.
If you wanna read the,
I was
you wanna
about
read
to
our.
say.
Check the order of
decision.
conditions, I don't see it that way.
You don't see
And-
it that way?
No, it's supposed to be repaired before CO. That's true.
Right.
Like, do you remember how,
We're supposed to
or
scope the
can you
pipe,
pull it up?
we're supposed to secure the top, and we're supposed to take that, and that's going to be done.
Sure would be good to have a date specific on that.
Yeah, let's take a look at the dry well condition.
Prior to issuance of CO, use stone cap over the existing drywall, and drywall should be clean in accordance with approved operation O&M plan.
Yeah, what does the O&M plan say?
Cool.
Inspections. Inspection worksheet.
So let's check.
So if you go to the first couple pages, that talks about when you do them. So you have
Site
the,
inspection of gutters, roofs, at least twice a year at the end of cooling, downspout, surface pipes.
you keep on going down, you'll see the dry wells and the,
Okay,
Well, it's all part of that same system.
oh yeah,
there we go.
right there.
Subsurface,
At least twice a
Twice a
year.
year.
Yep,
yeah.
I mean, you're the owners, you know.
it is.
Yep.
It's not before C of O, it's twice a year, period.
You go to the first page of that?
This one?
Yeah. we divide ours up until during and after construction.
So
Yeah,
hopefully they can prioritize that.
this is per
Sure.
the town bylaw. So when the change, the ownership change from Dana to the builder, they should have signed this, there should be a change, there's actually a, if you go to the bottom of this O&M, it changes when the actual,
Where do you want me to go, say, Jay?
at
All
the
the way
end of the
down?
logs, you can see the,
This
right
one?
there, so the operation and maintenance amendment logs. So when the buyer, or whoever the operator becomes, when that changes, this is supposed to get amended. So this way the buyer's aware,
Yeah,
when they, to tell them that they're in charge.
that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, oh no, I
Is
mean,
it our
that's-
job to
doesn't have
notify
to-
the
no,
buyer?
that's,
Or
this
the
is given,
seller?
Well, it
This
got
is-
sold to the builder, so.
Yeah.
But the builder has to pass it on.
yeah. So that's,
Yeah.
so there, like you said, there are documents that are in play, that they just gotta be executed.
No, somebody's got to inspect the well.
Oh, no, well, there's things that have to get done.
It's not on paper.
What
It's
we're
in
down to
real
now
life.
is the second buyer. You know, so there's been a first buyer and now there's a second buyer in the pipeline.
But the first buyer didn't do it.
Didn't do what it was supposed to do.
So, and the
Because-
second buyer's coming from England, and I don't
Yeah.
think that they're gonna be really into their drainage system somehow.
Can we take a look at what was in the conditions and get a check off from the current owner as to what has been done and when things that haven't been done, when they will be done? Okay?
So, okay, so if you could have the guy inspect the dry well, that would be great. And give Imai an idea of when the landscape construction is going to happen along the adjacent driveway, that would be very helpful. And then we can come back and take a look at the irrigation well, the drip lines. All right?
Yeah, so that they can establish erosion control right away, and we'll talk to the landscapers to find out the timelines of when they're gonna be putting the swale in and all that kind of stuff.
Great.
But they definitely should establish the erosion control.
Yeah, so.
That erosion control is going tomorrow.
So let's
Yeah.
set
It can start
a
being
date
done
for
and
that.
put that fabric in tomorrow.
We have 2 meetings in December.
We do have 2 meetings in December.
The 5th, I think, is probably pretty jammed up, but.
This is getting more jammed up, yeah. I mean, that's,
So let's do the.
so we can do the 19th.
19th.
Okay.
Do everything before the 19th. Come in and we'll talk again about the drip lines.
December.
Yep. You're not gonna hook those up anyway this fall. It's,
Not that, no, but the other stuff.
yeah, the other stuff. Get the
Is
other
it
stuff.
before that?
Get this straightened out with inspection. Finish the construction along the driveway so that he's not gonna keep getting water on his driveway.
You can give me a call when you're done, so I can come out when it rains, just to be like the eyeball.
Yeah. And erosion control, like, Friday,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, it should be done tomorrow.
It's supposed to, yeah, it's supposed to be kept in good repair, so.
Yeah, it looks pretty ratty.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do the fabric, right? You do fabric and
So you
stain.
can do it,
Far
yeah.
or,
Well, you like, we can get the filter mitt, that's the better material,
Yeah.
that's the heavy mulch bed that'll hold both it'll hold back some of the water, but it holds all the sediment or anything back.
Right.
That tiny little straw bottle doesn't do any of that stuff, so it should be filter mitt, that's what we had on our details, was filter mitt.
but somehow,
So if after you put the filter mats up and you're still getting water, you should let Imai know.
Okay.
And that's gonna be done this week. So if you're getting water on
The filter
Saturday.
mitt won't hold all the water back, the
No, but
key
I
to
mean-
that is getting the swale and drain.
Puddles versus lakes.
Yeah, maybe we just talk about the contours.
Yeah.
Because the contour to me is the
Right.
problem.
Yeah, this
The
was the,
whole thing now is raised and it's, I don't know, I don't know how you're gonna do this.
is it cutting across,
It's up at the top.
it's cutting across the mouth of like
But
your
then
driveway,
it comes
where it
down
is?
the bottom of the driveway.
the swale's supposed to pick that up and bring it to
And
the
bring it
back.
down,
Yeah.
past along your
To
driveway.
that back area.
Yeah, I knew this was gonna.
A picture of those up, like where those 2 trees are.
Across.
I'll show you where that shows, because the bottom of the driveway is
To
formed,
push the water.
Yeah.
like down the bottom, I'm saying the bottom of the top.
Yeah,
Like it-
there's no question it's solvable.
Yes.
We just need to look at it. All right, so we'll do that. We'll talk again on the
Yeah.
19th. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
hey,
On the map.
And by the way, John Field's not gonna let him move into that house, is he?
No temporary seal, no.
No, not with this one.
Yeah.
Definitely not with this one.
Good note.
Yeah, but you know, Ben, see the moving truck showing up, you would want to
By the way,
Selling a house doesn't require a CO. It's already been sold once, so they don't have to CO.
It does if there's a loan.
If there's a loan,
But if
so the
there's no loan,
developer
they would be
couldn't
cash
have,
buyers. They're from
that's not the case.
But if there's a loan, they can't do it.
No, but if the developer who just bought it, the builder probably has a loan on the house, and he's already bought
It's a
it.
construction loan.
Construction,
Okay.
building as well.
Okay, so builder loan's allowed, but a homeowner loan is not, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
That's
It's
like
hard
a
to
cattle
distinguish.
thing.
I think they pay cash. This is on the
Yeah,
registry of
cash.
deeds, so
Yeah,
the only one that's gonna own into that is a mortgageor.
yeah, exactly. That's right. That's
Or
right.
the people when they go to move in and they don't have to see a vote.
And the door's locked.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see the folks for 85 Chestnut here, but 162 Highland is, and Dave was here for that, so can we do that one first?
Sure. 162 Highland, scenic road site plan approval amendment, what do they want to do?
Can we talk about it?
Sure. Do you have the other, Frank?
I have some other ones of yours.
To the next, yeah,
Or this one.
no, what's the,
You can show that.
and zoom in to the
Oh,
end.
this is, okay, this is that one.
And this is the old man, right?
Who went out to the,
That's
who went out to the site on this one? Was that?
Leslie did.
Okay.
So we just have a water issue where the combination of the groundwater on the left side where the lawn is, the driveway runoff down the road, and the runoff on the road on Highland Street, and that little circular area is a detention pond that was constructed for the house long ago. That combination is causing a flooding problem on the street, which is an issue in the winter time. I think Steve Fogg and Richard sent you a letter saying that they want to address this. When they put the new pavement for Highland Street in, they gave us a stub for our lot inside the catch basin.
You have a pointer?
I don't. Yeah, so I could go up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a catch basin there, there's a stub. What we want to do is put some underground infiltration trenches. Those are the dark lines. On the left side, they're going to be underground, they're going to be covered with lawn, and they're mainly there to collect the groundwater, which is anywhere from 18 inches to 3 feet, depending on the season. So they want to collect that because it's breaking out in the corner of the driveway and running over the road. And we're going to pipe it across into the detention area. And then we've got a standpipe, which when the pond fills to a level, it will overflow into the pipe and into that catch basin. And we also have a trench on the low side of the driveway. The driveway pitches to the left, which will catch the runoff from coming down the driveway and infiltrate there. It also is tied in to the system in case we're not infiltrating, and it can flow into the town system down the street. So that's
Only visible element is the standpipe, and that's only, you can see it, you have to walk into the property to see
Will
it.
this work?
Well, can I, just for a sec, I can't quite see from here. At one point, you had the pipe from the pond going through the stone wall, that you were going to move that. Has that been moved on this?
I changed the angle from on the pipe. It was original. Yeah,
And it already exists, right?
the stub is already there, so we have to connect in there. So originally, the standpipe was here and was heading straight in through here. We since angled it off so we wouldn't affect any trees, and we're heading in to this point.
You
So-
going
There
under
might
this?
be one big rock. It's about a 3-foot
Yeah,
diameter
you
rock.
were, you were hopeful you were going to be able to move that. I mean,
Well, that's-
avoid it, but you're no longer hopeful?
I don't,
They won't
I
know
think
till
it
they
has to
dig
be
it.
moved, but because the pipe from the catch basin, I think, comes more straight line, more, right up that way, so
And that last boulder is probably, right around
But right now, you're avoiding the two trees, because one of the
there.
things.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, there's the one tree, we were originally going straight in.
Right.
So we've angled it between there's another tree right
Right.
there.
One of the things I think the homeowner also said, and I agree with, is that if you have to take down a tree, you take down the small one all the way to the left. And at that point also, if you can do that and still avoid moving the wall, that's not a bad solution. I think
Okay.
that's where you guys were at.
Well, I think the problem is that the pipe and the wall it's right there where we have to connect in, so
Okay.
I don't wanna say the wrong thing,
But
but
you'll
that
put-
stone may have to be picked
All
up
right,
and put back.
But if you can avoid that, you will.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And also, the one on the other side now is, I believe it is, but I just want to be sure I understand it, outside of the canopy of the trees?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's.
It's in the lawn.
Yeah,
That's
we
been
push
moved.
that
Okay,
way,
all right.
yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah. This is-
So this, we're sure this works, because I happened to be on the planning board when we looked at this the first time, and that retention pond was absolutely gonna work. There was gonna be no runoff down Highland Street, guaranteed.
Well, I went out there in the rainstorm, and this whole driveway pitches to this gutter, and right now there's like an earth berm, and it just shoots everything out here. And this also is just a detention pond. If we put this standpipe in, it's not gonna be able to fill up and overflow. It's gonna go into the town drainage system.
Yeah.
And then we're picking up that underground water that breaks out in the spring over here, so I think it's our best shot.
I think the shoulder, I mean, you can see the contours, how they come down. So you
Yeah.
look on the far side, come down, and then it's supposed to funnel to the pond.
Yeah,
I think just over time, kind of looks like the driveway sunk a little bit at the edges. The shoulder got built up a little bit, probably with continued landscaping over time.
yeah.
So I think that's why we didn't see it when it happened, when it got built, and then, I mean, it's been happening for a couple of years, but it's still, I mean, it's
Yeah.
10, 15 years after this house was built, right?
Right, yeah.
So,
Has to be done, so.
yeah, and you visually won't see anything. I mean, they're even gonna repair the driveway back, so you don't even see a seam.
Yeah, you don't have to change the grade, just repave something.
Do you have enough to write up a decision?
Yeah,
You got enough?
yeah. I've got these things bedding up. Kim made comment on it, she's fine with it, she doesn't believe the trenching will have minimal effect, if any, on the trees, there's no landscape to be affected, so,
Yeah.
we're fine with it, yeah, so I have enough to write up a decision, I can write this up as a memo if you guys are fine with it, if you, wanna see it next week,
Yeah.
see it next week?
You probably want to get it done sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
I guess, before the winter sets in.
Yeah, that's one of the goals.
Yeah, because it's the winter that's the pain for this.
Yeah.
This is where it comes out and freezes.
Right.
Yeah, our concern, excuse me, Bruce McDowell. Concern is getting
Could
it.
you identify yourself?
Bruce McDowell.
Okay, oh, okay.
So we'll probably end up doing the installation here. So our concern here, time is of the essence just because of the asphalt aspect of it in that repair, the plant shutting down and whatnot. So we hope to get it done in the next few weeks if possible.
Yeah. Everybody okay?
Okay, so this is
Okay.
okay.
Steve, you okay?
Yep.
Okay. Good, then we'll look at the decision, draft decision on the 5th, or
No, 14th.
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 Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Spoke too soon. 14th.
Next week.
Next week.
Next week, yeah,
The 14th of November.
of November, correct.
Right, okay. Good,
Thank you.
thank you.
Why do we have two in a row? Is it an election week or something?
Thanksgiving,
Town
and
meeting.
town meeting, so that's why. Okay, 85 Chestnut, I don't see anyone here for that, but we can take a look at this anyway.
This
So,
is
that is
this
this,
maple tree.
yeah, this is the maple tree at 85 Chestnut. That's a closer view of it. There's a dead center leader here. So we did get,
It's too bad.
yeah, I did get I did have them get an arborist to evaluate this, and I have that here. I have it here. From Marquee Tree, this is basically just the summary. If you skip to the end, he does say that the tree
It's an
needs to be.
arborist?
Yes,
So of course he's gonna say cut it down tomorrow.
so, yeah.
You always do.
Well, we paid this guy.
Okay.
So this is we paid it with an
So
agency
we
contract,
paid him to say cut it down tomorrow.
basically. So he said one is a problem with the leader, the other is a structural problem. Kim has come out and taken a look at it, and they are proposing to replant.
A 12-foot high,
2-inch
Yeah.
that's a 2-inch caliper.
It doesn't.
5 to 6 inch caliper, red sunset or October glory maple, and Kim is fine with that replacement.
Not in the same spot, right?
No, not, it's gonna be in the general area, usually these don't go in the same spot.
Right. And is it as large a tree as this one is this maple? Final growth?
As large a tree,
5-inch
Final,
caliper?
I meant final growth.
yeah,
I don't know what its maximum growth is, but that's what I'm asking.
They're sugar maples, they're enormous, and those are particular hybrids, or not hybrids, but varieties that are very, very brilliant colors.
Right, I'm still looking for,
Yeah, but they're classic sugar maples, which is that tree.
Right.
Yeah. But
I
so.
mean, is it the same scale as a sugar maple? I mean,
It
30,
is a
40
sugar
years.
maple.
Right. But you understand what I'm trying to ask,
Yeah.
there's sugar maples in different varieties. They grow, 30 feet, 40 feet,
Will it
50
be as
feet.
big when it's mature as this one is?
I don't think it's known as like a small one,
Well,
miniature.
I just asked the
They just say
question.
it's a.
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know, and honestly, I'm not the,
Okay,
that's where I would rely on Kim. I know just, Kim has told me she has no issue with the replacement.
okay,
She's-
then I'm fine.
She's good with the proposed
All right.
replacement.
But this is something that they're gonna have to go after the roots in order to replace a tree anywhere near there, because this
Yeah.
system, this
That's
is
what
just
I,
an enormous root
exactly,
system,
yeah.
and I wonder,
And I guess, were they actually planning, do you know where they were planning to put it? Because of
No.
that problem with the,
No, I don't know, I don't have a plan that
I
says
think we need
exactly
a location,
where they're planning to put
because
it.
this thing is key to the whole.
Oh,
Yeah, it is,
really,
yeah.
that
That's
the driveway
really
was
key.
actually planned around this
Right.
tree.
right,
Yeah.
Is
So
this the
this
one
is-
that's Highland, or is this the one for?
No, this
It's
is,
Chestnut.
John, what is in the
this is,
island?
the driveway goes around it, it's not on an island.
Oh, yeah,
If there is a tree,
Yeah,
yeah.
there it is, yeah, there's a little tree, little ornamental,
no, the big
twisted
one,
dogwood,
at
it's
the-
great
at the
big
shoulder.
sugar maple, which is.
And they really have to take
Yeah,
it
see
down.
that?
huh?
When was this
That's key
reviewed
to
by
the
us?
whole thing.
Yeah, it's gonna go, it's not gonna go off to the side here. My understanding is it's gonna go in this spot.
Yeah.
See, but then you gotta dig almost to China.
It would just be interesting to find out exactly how they prep the soil for that. And
Okay.
And
I
if it
assume
really is in the
they're
same
gonna have a very
spot.
good company do it, because if it's gonna be,
Western Tree and Landscape and Tree is gonna do it.
So just interesting to note that it's apparent that the construction has been dramatically impacted the tree.
I'm sure it
The-
has.
The construction
Right,
of the tree.
yeah. But it's taken a long time.
It's taken a long time.
Yeah, because
This
this is
this came
probably from
before us back in the,
2000,
yeah,
maybe
even before
1998.
that.
It was a
It
long
was
time.
like the second or third, it was the
Eighty,
first or
it was like
second year.
81 and then 85.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
like before 2000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was a long time ago, it took a long time to kill that tree.
Okay.
I
But
want,
it's so old, it makes you wonder if it's just the end
I
of
want to
the
say Roy did it,
That's just his opinion.
Hmm?
Bruce's dad did it.
Yeah.
I want to say he was the,
Oh, yeah. Oh, really?
I know he did 81, I think he did the one next to it.
But Phil Jones is gonna be the guy.
Okay, yeah,
that
he's gonna be
replaces
the guy
it.
replacing.
Can we find out from Phil where that's gonna go, and
Yeah,
I'd make it, well, you know, as large as we can without jeopardizing the, you know, the tree
Okay.
itself. Maybe 5-inch caliper is all we can really hope for, and assure that it's gonna stay healthy, but
okay.
when are they gonna do it? That's the other thing. This is the end of get towards the middle of November.
I don't think he has plans to do it.
Until next spring?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worst time in the year to transplant a great big one.
When?
In the spring, because that means you have unestablished roots having to deal with, they've got this big canopy opening up and they
Yeah.
can't bring the water up fast enough. They really suffer when they go in there.
So when is the best time?
The best time is the fall. To have put it in September when you start getting cooler weather. I mean, our summers are so hot, they just
So
frost.
but it's too late now, isn't it?
It's marginal, but it's too late in terms of this great big giant tree has to be removed. And so when that
Yeah.
goes, I mean, they could maybe trim it out so it went through the winter. Take out all
All
the
I'm
dead.
asking is, when is the best time to do the replant?
Next September, 2019. Anytime between September and actually when the
I
ground
mean,
freezes.
you could do it still in the next 2 weeks.
Right.
But I
But
don't know how
it's-
quickly they want to move.
I don't know how quickly they can do it.
And I don't know
It's
what they're
tiny
doing for
thing.
soil prep.
I don't know what they're doing for soil prep either.
Can we do this? Can
Yeah.
we find out from Phil when he wants to plant and where
Okay.
he wants to plant and get an exact idea of where that's gonna be? And maybe we could get that information, write up the decision
Yeah,
so that we could also review this decision on the 14th of
Yep.
November. That would at least give him some time. So that
Do it.
if he needs to really try and squeak it in,
Because it would be great if you could squeak it in.
okay.
I
I
agree,
don't
the
wanna-
spring is the worst time, and they don't wanna sit around until next September, so.
Right. Or
So
have
I
it make
wish,
it,
I
make it
wish
white.
they'd come about a month and a half sooner. This is
He,
a terrible.
he had been trying to get a decision from the homeowner of like, how to replant, what to, and I mean, you see when I took the picture, it was
Yeah.
obviously a different time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
it's still high summer. And it was failing, so that tree's gonna die.
All right, so let's find out, so
Okay.
at least where it's gonna go,
And maybe it has to be done next year. It's a big investment to put a
Well-
great big tree in.
Right.
And
a
then-
5-inch
and then-
caliper, how big is it? 15, 16,
I don't
18
know,
feet?
people like, that's big.
Well, any tree of that size is
Yeah,
gonna
I
need some
think
kind of
so.
a guarantee or warranty, and they're not gonna put it in unless they're sure it's gonna live.
Kim will
So I
tell you,
guess-
but I think you're well into the 20s with the
You
5.
think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that if there's
Yeah.
anything we can do to get them, give them the approval so they can go ahead and put it in this fall, if they
Yeah.
feel comfortable with it, we should do that.
All right, let's find out how big it is, let's find out where it's gonna go.
Okay.
And at least have that information, take a look at the decision, and try to
Okay.
get it in the ground before the ground has a
Okay.
chance to solidify.
Okay.
They can mulch it, have it, I mean, the tree will put up 2 feet or roots as long as the ground touching it. It's not frozen, so if you're mulching it, it's really heavy. It would take, we've had warm December.
Yeah, maybe ask Phil to come to the.
I thought he was gonna come tonight.
That was,
And then we can talk to him about it.
Yeah, they take,
The process.
yeah, because these people are gonna put so much money out of this tree.
all right, so okay, we can start taking a look at decisions.
All right.
This is the Concord and Merriam wall.
Alright, I'll see you probably Tuesday or something, right?
Did we have a sidewalk Tuesday?
No. Okay.
Alright, I'll see you Wednesday.
Just memos this time around.
Yeah, I read this, but then I wanna weigh in on something.
Oh. I don't know.
I don't understand the first sentence.
Yeah.
Stuck on that.
Yeah, I think currently just didn't come out of,
Oh, okay,
of a,
okay,
of
so
a
take currently
template,
out
yeah,
of it?
take currently out.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Existing.
Everybody had a chance to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments?
Yes.
Yeah.
What she presented last time was the mortared dry, was it not mortared dry laid stone, but the specifications in detail still show mortar and refer to mortar in specs. So all that needs to be revised before we approve this, so we can take a look at it. She also doesn't have the detail. I took the specs from what she reminded me about, and I sent that to her and to Steve 2 weeks ago, making those revisions. She's right, says right now they're being reviewed up the ladder, and she'd get them to us so we can take another look at it, and at that point of detail. I also don't know, here's a detail from the Stone Trust. They're an organization who basically uses United Kingdom specifications for dry laid stone. I put it out there. She's having trouble finding one.
Finding one
Finding a dry laid wall.
contractor?
Well, no, detail.
Detail.
Detail, because what she was using before was a mortared
Okay.
wall. So I think we have to wait until they update the spec, the detail, before we can approve it going out.
So you sent her what we usually use for the detail for the dry lake wall? Because we've
I-
done that on multiple decisions,
You
right?
know, I keep asking for that, and I'm never able to find it.
Because they are in decisions. I mean, that's when
Well,
we'll see a
the-
decision of a dry lake wall.
Well, this is-
We say dry laid wall in the decision, and we usually say 6-foot mock-up. Well, we don't have like a
We don't have
construction.
a
You
picture?
don't have it, we've tried.
Really?
I've
No, we don't
asked.
have a construction
No, we
specification.
don't.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this might be useful, I mean, here's one,
Doing
take a peek at it, you know, this comes from them. As I say, check out the Stone Trust, they're in Vermont, they're from the UK, et cetera, et cetera. It's a start.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Like this.
You can do it now, right?
Pardon?
You can.
I took an 8-hour class,
How to
yes.
build stone wall.
How to build stone, we did dry laid and
That's
yeah, it was
excellent.
quite something. My back can still feel it.
Wow.
But again, that was just one mere novice beginning, yeah, so.
So what, I guess we put this off until we've had it.
Let it get it up,
More
get a
information.
corrected update.
Okay.
Okay.
You have this, right?
I just got a copy of it from Liz, so.
No more comments on this?
I did want to ask about the,
Did you want to make a comment, Tom?
Oh, no, there's no need to comment on this. 'cause we're not-
No, because we're not gonna.
we're not gonna use it.
vote on
But I did want to ask, when we say local stone, how local is local?
You want to say
I'd
within
rather say
495?
Aged?
Aged fieldstone.
Okay,
From the state of Massachusetts?
yeah, is that,
I mean, Rhode Island's very different.
Yes, it is.
is it, okay.
One thing we do have to be careful of is there's a lot of people pillage stone walls without permission.
So,
Did you hear this at the class?
I've heard it several places, yeah, no, seriously, yeah.
No,
And
no, I
we
believe it.
lose a lot of historic walls that way. I don't know, I haven't done my homework to find out if you need a, whatever it is, a custody like you do for
chain of
green
custody
facilities
for
or what.
FSC lumber.
I have no idea. My other question is, does the DPW have any stone that they normally use for, you know, when they do repairs, et cetera?
I don't think they have like a storehouse, like a,
Like
you know,
a
warehouse
pile
of it or
somewhere.
anything, no, I don't believe so. I
They
don't-
had outside people like on Church Street, remember the Church Street episode, Steve?
Oh, yes.
Can you?
Come
So-
to us digging in my yard.
What
So,
happened?
we'll say aged fieldstone,
Had to
10,000
reread that 3
blocks in my
times
yard.
Because
Well, the trouble with.
of,
Massachusetts.
improper,
oh, construction.
yeah, and materials and all kinds of stuff. First it looked like California, then it looked like Arizona.
But they-
Oh,
we
geez.
said
That's
so
why
they
it looked
contain-
like here.
they don't look like
Okay.
that.
They're all different.
Just raw.
We need a blockchain for all the stones in the stone wall. Make sure we retain its history.
Covered with moss
Yeah,
and everything
because
else,
for-
and bury it in a couple of years, it looks just like it's never seen the light of day. All of that,
I mean, their spec,
ornament is gone.
their spec right now talks for cleaning the stones. Yes, exactly. So there's work that has to be done.
We're not there yet.
Right, we should,
Yeah.
hopefully will be.
And all the stone walls in our town, they have something to write.
Right.
And I mean, it's a lot of the original versions.
Yeah, yeah.
True.
Various. Okay, there we go.
None of the old ones are perfect though.
No,
The new ones are perfect.
Yeah,
well, that's true too.
I'll put the other truck into it a couple of times.
One time. They didn't say it, down. Proving you wrong.
That's true.
You wanna keep your words right?
Here's an arborist that said, save the tree.
Save the tree.
Amazing.
They didn't have any concerns. They didn't actually say save it. They said they did not have any concerns. Is that a direct quote?
Yes.
Is there any way we can be more positive with, rather than just say sufficient visibility? Because there was a lot of visibility. I don't know what the next correct word would be or term.
Really sufficient?
And very,
Very sufficient.
Exactly, I know.
What about sufficiently adequate?
Yeah.
Isn't that less?
Yeah, but that sounds much
Maybe
less.
sufficient is enough, maybe sufficient is enough, but I
Yeah.
just wanna,
Yeah.
you know, it was apparent.
Barely marginally.
You could see to the sunrise.
Yes, yeah, right. From ocean.
500 yards down the road is what you can see, 500
I'm
feet.
a big
yeah.
fan of redundancy.
All right,
Really, really.
so it's dilly-dilly.
Okay.
Are we using Stumpy now as the town tree service?
That's good.
Imai, are we using Stumpy's now as a town tree service, or was that?
No, that is
private, or-
DPW. DPW uses Stumpy's.
Okay,
So he first asked us of DPW about the health of the tree, and then when DPW looked at it, the DPW's tree said, no, it's fine.
okay. Okay.
Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Make a motion?
I move that we accept the, how do I do this? What is this called, decision, right? Draft
Yes.
decision, in its entirety.
On 687.
On 687 Wellesley Street, scenic road work denial.
Were there any modifications?
Just minor.
Okay, so with modifications.
Okay, yeah, I didn't hear the Steve had, okay, with modifications.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed?
You had a chance to say, I approve this denial.
I know.
There, oh, I missed it.
Ready for you to say that.
Geez, I'm just not as fluent in this yet.
That's okay.
It's denial, I like it.
I was gonna write it.
Oh, you
Okay.
should have.
All right, so now we're going to planning board meeting from 6:06.
So minutes is, I sent out, I just sent
And
you
you're
those
picking on
minutes
me, I know.
the other day. No, because I gave you 6,
I gave you both of them.
I gave you both?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant to give Steve one then. Okay, kick one over to Steve.
That's okay.
Okay.
I don't really, I don't mind it, seriously.
And then the next one's gonna,
Wait a minute, are we
No, I want to talk
handing
about.
them out, or are we voting on something?
Yeah, I want to talk about June 6th.
Okay.
oh, you do, okay.
Yeah, under 45 Blue Road, if you look at them. So unfortunately, these, they don't have pages, there's no page aside. So you have to go to 45, yeah. You have to go down, it says, Glenn asked about the height of trees planned for planting and species. Turner stated that firs will get quite large and fill in. Glenn clarified that they are not pines, which the applicant has concerns will fail bud first.
I don't know.
I think we just say
Will
about
fail.
which the applicant has concerns will fail. Does that say fail or fall? It actually says will fall, bud first. Would you like to restate that, Ms. Lynn?
I'm trying to finally them stop moving so I can actually read what it
Yeah.
says. And that's about the high speed.
Looks like she was gonna add something, but just didn't.
Yeah.
We'll fall but first.
First, word from our sponsor.
Stay in tune next week.
Yeah. But yeah,
Come
just
back
all
to the
fall,
planning board.
period. Trying to stay with the, trying to remember. Pines. I think what it basically, I didn't clarify it. It was clarified to me that they are not pines because there is concern that we have a lot of trouble with white pines. So it was clarified to me versus I did the clarification.
Okay.
So I think it's stated first will get quite large and fill in, and that they are not white pines. It was noted that white pines are a concern.
Explain maybe?
All right, so you figured that out? All right, moving on down to the next one, which I think was Laurel Road. Go.
Yeah, there's Laurel.
Laurel, okay. Under engineering issue, Ada Lot asked to compare the footprint of previous plan and see context plan of neighborhood. Stated that the adjacent house was 2,800 square feet. Okay, and as I recall on this site plan, the house, as you face the one on Laurel, to the right, there was a much earlier house that was really small,
Yeah.
800. But to the left, there was a much newer house, the one that had the impact. So just in the future, it would be good to state the address of the adjacent house.
That's a
rather
good
than-
idea.
Because
Yeah.
it's very
Okay.
confusing.
Yep, yep.
Because then you move on to Glenn. I don't like to say that.
So close.
I'm glad. Okay. Glenn stated that the neighbor, this is on the other side now
Mhm.
of the house, that the neighbor had attended the sidewalk and was concerned about runoff into area of newly planted trees. Stated that new houses cited higher than neighbors. And then we have a little series of quotation marks. So stated higher than neighbors, quote, period. Then applicant stated that runoff should go towards street instead of into the neighbors. Quote, A-Lot
I
stated
think
that
that's
only changes
possessive.
were to
Yeah.
run to neighbors. Oh,
Yeah.
is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is neighbors, plural
Oh, okay, so
possessive.
that isn't just a little single quotation
No.
mark, okay.
Right.
All right, well then that ends my question.
Okay.
All of neighbors.
Yeah, all of neighbors. Only changes were to run off to neighbors.
Lots of neighbors, adjacent houses.
Anyway, okay, good, well, so I understand that now, so that was the, other than, there was they were very well done, the notes.
You ready to approve them?
Okay.
Yeah.
Two in specific.
So are those modifications, are we
Yes.
ready to go?
Yes,
Okay. Great.
I move that
Somebody-
we approve those notes with the modifications from, June 6, 2018.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. No opposed? What about
I didn't
June
get,
20?
I didn't get.
620, yeah, 620,
Still using that?
yeah, 620, I only got them done on day. So,
All right, then, we may get out of here before 10 o'clock, I don't believe it. Town planner report.
town planner
Ray, you're
report.
up.
Okay, so the big thing to note is, just, we have a meeting next week, we're off of our regular schedule, so we can have room for town meeting. And Thanksgiving. There is, I did want to kind of take a look back at some of our long-range plans and master plans. These are the ones I usually put up here, but kind of here they are in a status and kind of, cost. I'm not too concerned about cost right now. Our upcoming budget should cover any consultant costs. But what I am more concerned about is just time and effort. I obviously have to be concerned about mine. I'd like to say I'm super and can do all of that, but I will be lying.
Assistant town planner.
He is starting on Tuesday. So we're getting more capacity, which is good.
Who is this person? Do we get,
His-
background, resume, whatever?
He's a grad student right now. He's a grad student at UMass. His name is Dana Orkin. So he's working on his master's in urban planning right now.
So he's gonna be working how many hours a week?
19. He's part-time right now.
Does he live close or far?
They don't know. I mean, his address is on the thing, but I forget where he lives, honestly.
Lives in Aroostook County.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that? Yeah. And then, well, the other thing too is, with all these things, it takes your time. If we were to do all this, we're probably talking extra meetings or something like that. So there's some bandwidth we have to be concerned about. So, rules revision. I know we've had that on our plate for a while. We've put them off because of the two large 40Bs has really put those off. We had drafts and we were starting to work on those, but we weren't able to really get through those. The water master plan, I'm confident will be starting up again now. MAPC has a new staff person working on this. Their data guy just reached out to me, and I am, one of the first things I'm going to have our assistant town planner do is work on some archive research to feed into that data. Scenic road guidelines.
Can I go back to that for a sec?
Yes.
Sustainable Committee has finally gotten blessed and formed.
Oh, yeah.
And they're gonna be hopefully meeting for the first time in the next 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
So that's a perfect piece to feed into that, so.
Great.
I guess, can you copy me of that email?
Yep.
Just so I can let them know what's out there, because I think probably the first part they're gonna do is say, what have we got as a base?
Okay.
And that could be part of it.
Great. I like it.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yep.
Outstanding. The scenic road guidelines were something that were suggested a while back when we were looking at Eversource removing a lot of trees, that we would have maintenance and replacement guidelines. That was something we were going to work on with TAG, and we needed some funding for that. But that's something that basically we just haven't been able to get. It just hasn't risen to the top. And then some standard condition revisions. We've looked at those. Those have been drafted. Some of it is actually we've incorporated into our current things, but we haven't taken a comprehensive look at our standard conditions. So with this, probably the one that's going to go on really is the water master plan. Is probably going to end up being what moves out of this. Here's some current and new things that were going on. Tony and I have.
In addition to the 40Bs.
Yeah, those still go on here.
You got plenty of.
So, Tony and I have been working on transportation planning. We just went to a Together conference, got some good ideas there, and we're gonna, we're gonna talk about this with some other parts of the town, and eventually our hope is to, kind of bring our initial round of findings before you folks and with some ideas for next steps.
Did we get any kind of update at all, or download from, what you guys?
Yeah, we're gonna bring that to you.
But you said you're gonna bring it to everybody else first, that's what I don't understand.
No.
Not bringing to everybody else, just traffic and sidewalk.
Yeah, just traffic and sidewalk.
Chris had asked for us to connect with traffic and sidewalk.
Right.
We want to be partners with them in every step we take.
Yeah.
So we were hesitant to come back here with any idea of a completion of a round without going with them.
When are you gonna meet with them, because I'd love to know that, I'll sit in there as a,
Oh, sure.
I'm gonna try and arrange something next week.
okay, if you could just copy, maybe the whole planning board team also wants to show up.
So, okay. Well, we can't show up more than
Okay.
2.
Yeah, that's the idea, right?
Then it's official.
that's
See, we
fine.
wanted
This is an unofficial run through.
This is a casual.
Okay, then I'll just, let me
Yeah.
know and I'll show up, because I'm a nosy person.
Okay. All right. we've talked about some revisions to RGFA and how we handle those. We're talking about that possibly, I was thinking the timeline was fall town meeting, but
Obviously not.
yeah,
Is
do.
that next fall meeting?
Yeah, next,
2019?
yeah, or we've spring town meeting.
Spring, we should be able to make something happen.
Okay, so spring town meeting, then we're,
I need to get you some thoughts.
okay.
Yeah.
And then on the 14th, we're discussing the tree bylaw with TAG. So that's another one. That's not too heavy of a lift, and hopefully we'll have somebody else, another committee helping us out on that.
Are we starting with the Wellesley one as a base?
Yes, that's my plan.
Okay, can we get a copy of that one?
Sure.
If that would be great, so we come sort of semi-prepared.
Master plan has $4 signs.
Yep, that's gonna be the most expensive one. Now, if we build up to there, we have no definitive date for that, but that's something, we need to know a budget cycle in advance, because we're going for more money that year.
Where's the pressure coming from for the master plan?
Honestly, I don't think there's a lot of pressure. It's just been mentioned to me by selectmen.
Yeah.
It's also, I've heard it whenever you're doing affordable housing, people want to know when a site is going to get maxed out. And I think that it wouldn't be a healthy thing to have a discussion about what the scope of the master plan is amongst ourselves before we actually even budget it.
Oh, yeah.
What are we actually going to bring in there? What do we think we can accomplish?
Yeah.
Well, who's in the driver's seat on that? That's gotta be sponsored by the selectmen, doesn't it?
I think it would be, yes. I mean, ultimately, it would, because of its wide reach, yes, but I would imagine that's something, we're managing here.
Yeah.
So, but as for what's going on now, that's what I want to take a look at. Basically, the water master plan, transportation planning, and the RGFA revisions. The three kind of current and new things we're all going to hear a little bit more about soon. We're going to meet with TAG next month. Tony and I are going to tell you about what we're doing with transportation planning. Somewhere in there, I'd like to sort out, what are we prioritizing amongst all of us? Because we're only going to be able to tap into each of us so much, I think. And timeline comes into that. If we're looking at spring for RGFA revisions, maybe we can we can work on the transportation planning first now. RGFA revisions, we gear up a little more for spring. Tree bylaw, hopefully TAG can carry that a little more.
Right,
That
makes sense.
Okay. Funner part of it, so that's what I want.
Good feedback. Is that it?
That is the big things I wanted to go over with you guys. And,
Okay.
if there's other things, the ongoing projects and permits, I think we'll have updates on those. Any committee updates, CPC?
We just had two small, but very important historic preservations, mostly from historic preservation.
Okay.
It's not a lot of, all the big stuff comes in the spring.
In the spring, okay.
What about the town center? Are we going to be discussing that in the next meeting?
Next
Okay,
week.
Next week, okay.
Yeah, so next week, yeah.
'Cause I took a look, I sat down and took a look at the bid documents with actually Jim the other day.
Okay.
We're gonna discuss it, meaning we'll get a presentation, or just an update?
We're gonna talk about, we're probably gonna be asked
To support.
for our input. I'm thinking at town meeting,
Hmm.
and I think we just should discuss.
We should give input whether we're.
Okay,
asked
amongst
or not.
ourselves.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Can we get a copy? The DPW has the bid set and specs. Can we get them here for that meeting?
I can try.
Because I think that's helpful instead of talking up in the,
Specs are what, about this thick?
they're about this thick and they're
Yeah.
falling apart. And they're also, because it's horizontal construction, it's not done by CSI, it's done by item number, and there's no table of contents.
Oh, great.
That's great.
All I
So we're gonna look through that next week?
Well, I think it's, if somebody says, does such and such happen, we can sit there and go, oh, it does or it doesn't. You know, that kind of stuff.
Okay, good. Yeah, the drawings would be good to see.
Okay.
Right now, there's a lot of oral transmissions about it all. You know what I mean? Different,
Not a lot. I wish there were more.
Okay. Leslie gave us sustainability
Yep.
committee update, so we're good on
Right,
that. We're
set
talking
aside.
tree advisory group.
You see.
Well, wait a
we got
second,
an
Steve
update.
had this comment.
Oh, what's
He
up?
is actually on the town secretary, so what is that?
I was just asking Al if he saw the email from Steve.
I did, and I was greatly relieved to see that the street tree ideas come back.
Yeah, so these so-called,
yeah, like,
rumors from reliable sources and what have you are
No, no.
necessarily
Um,
these things.
They weren't rumors, it was, there was the JSTL library people were shown a set of drawings with a landscape scheme that was totally different. I don't know why, I don't know where it came from, I don't know where it disappeared to. But that's what was concerning us, because we were seeing something different from what the util vision was. So what I was trying to nail down was what was actually in the bid documents. Well, it turns out that the bid, even though Burke at the presentation of the planning board said that he was changing from the util concept, actually is not changing from the util concept. So I thought it was interesting that the town's landscape architect was telling us something different from what was in the set of construction documents. But anyway, when the dust settles, what's in those documents apparently is consistent with what util showed us at the previous town meeting, which was really a relief.
And evidently, Tom Cullen and others felt that they were complete enough to go out to bid.
That's not what I heard.
That's not what I heard either.
Well, you saw Steve's response, I'm just commenting
Yeah,
on Steve's
no,
response. Sometimes you have to trust other people.
well, do you
It
know
depends on
when
who you're
that
trusting.
comes back in?
Pardon me?
When's the number due, the bid number?
I don't know.
But, I mean, Tom himself said he didn't think it was ready for prime time, so.
That's not what Steve said.
I know, so you have to trust, sometimes you have to trust people. I don't know who to trust, you know, you're hearing
Yeah, that was-
tomato, so.
I want those wires buried.
There were things within the documents which caused pause. And I think that will be a good conversation next week.
Okay.
Did you have a chance to look through them in detail?
No.
No. Yeah.
So am I gonna get 5 sets or 1 set to share?
Well, the set's gotta be
We're just
this
gonna-
thick.
we're
We're not gonna get
borrow
flash
one.
sets, that's like.
No, we're just gonna borrow the DPW one over here, so we'll bring it back to it afterwards.
1 set will be big enough.
Yeah.
Let's borrow it, don't kill any more trees.
Okay.
Goodness, we've killed enough tonight.
All right, that is pretty much it. Nothing really much more from Rail Trail, so.
Good update.
So I move
Thank
the
you.
adjourned meeting.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.